Greg, is there any chance I can get any access to the private thoughts that you were having a second ago that made you, even though we were all sitting in silence here, smile to yourself because you were thinking of something privately that you'd like to share? Or is it a public thought? Can it be a public thought?
It can be a public thought. I was a little embarrassed by myself because I put my 2 books on display for the camera to notice, and I was very careful to position them, and I was both happy to do it and embarrassed and ashamed of myself at the same time.
Definitely the second part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you are a self-aggrandizing self-promoter. I thought you were proud of that. You do it with no shame while you're here.
That's true. Well, you two haven't written books, so you wouldn't understand, but when you write a book...
By choice.
When you write a book, it's something you're very proud of. It's like, these are my 3rd and 4th children, is the way I look at it.
Which are you prouder of, your books or your children?
It depends on how my children are behaving.
Which did you put more work into?
Yeah.
Probably the books.
If you were to rank your books and your children 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all equal, how would you rank them?
I would rank The Pride of a Lion ahead of... the Back in My Day book, which is just a compilation.
And both ahead of Michael and Christopher?
Yeah, well, I always go chronologically with my sons.
But the rankings can always change.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, of course.
But the books never leave the top rankings, do they? The books are always ahead of the sons.
Well, the books are totally different. I mean, how can you compare?
No, on these it's the same. You created 4 offspring, 2 human offspring and 2 literary offspring.
Right.
Rank your favorite of your 4 offspring.
No, I will say the books never disappoint me.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Dress too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough when mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I believe that I was just witness to what is the greatest compliment our show can give. You guys tell me if you think there's a greater compliment or a harder to achieve compliment than what I'm about to say. Billy Gill came in here today, not merely excited, but saying out loud, verbally communicating that someone had impressed him. It's hard to impress Billy Gill. He's got a very high standard for being impressed publicly. Chris, I mean, I know Billy's disagreeing with me already because he's disagreeable, especially on Tuesdays. Yeah, no, I know. But you being impressed is something that I find hard to come by. So I was even more stunned when I found out who you were impressed by.
I've been impressed by 2 people. I was handing out compliments like they were candy on Halloween. I complimented Greg on his shoes. I said Greg has great-looking shoes today. I was impressed by someone and a feat of athleticism that I saw on the internet. And then I had, if I could channel my inner Joan Rivers, I saw some fashion faux pas today, but we're not going to get into that. So.
That's not any of what I was talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm just telling you. I was handing out cookies. I was handing out compliments like it was Halloween candy. I told you. Greg's shoes. I saw a fashion faux pas that we're not going to talk about. And then I had this feat of athleticism that I saw on the internet yesterday, if you would like to check your screen. Dan Graziano tweeted at Peloton 100 days away from a pretty special milestone. Dan Graziano has worked out 1,900 days in a row on Peloton. 1,900 days in a row on Peloton. It keeps track for you digitally. So what you're saying is that I did the math. That's over 5 straight years that Dan Graziano every single day has done a Peloton workout of some kind. And he has the digital receipt right there that's tracked by his app.
You believe that?
Well, what you're accusing it. Well, the only way this could be faked is if he goes and he starts a workout and lets it running that he's not participating in.
I mean, that's a very busy guy, especially during football season. Greg, you know, as somebody who follows football, there's a lot of things you're doing.
Yeah.
You're going over here, you're flying over there, you're writing a column here, you're doing a podcast over there.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, you got 1,900 days in a row that you're going to be doing Peloton.
He's
Yeah.
traveling every weekend during football season.
Well,
We
okay,
don't
not to
believe
make
it.
this a commercial, but Peloton with the app, you can do workouts pretty much anywhere.
Right, but he's not sick one day where it's like, all right, guess what? Today, the one day I'm sick, I can't do Peloton.
Not him. Apparently not. 1,900 straight days. We have the receipts right there. And by the way, as someone who regularly, I don't want to say cheats on their Peloton streaks, but has creative ways around it, you set up a 5-minute sleep meditation. You just fall asleep while it's playing. Boom. That's a day right there.
Yep.
1,900, very impressive. I haven't even gotten to 50, even doing my sleep meditations where I just literally fall asleep while the app is playing. Incredible.
Tony, would you do me the favor, please, of looking up for me Skip Bayless's crazy workout streak? Because I think he's missed 2 days in like 20 years. I will say to you, many people might not know this. Dan Graziano used to be a fat person. Dan Graziano came up through this market as a fat person. I recognized
Whoa.
Well, what? I recognized a peer. I'm not saying it as an insult. It was a mirror for me. I've been impressed by his work. I'm not insulting him. He used to be very heavy, and then he took up obsessive-compulsive running, and he's gotten very fit. One of the great survivors in the history of ESPN. There have been a lot of cuts there. Graziano's safe because football's safe. Football's Around the Horn's gone because I'm assuming ESPN needs more football. Like the ratings were fine on Around the Horn. It's just more football. Everybody likes football. Get Graziano. He talks football. There used to be more of him. I don't mean it as an insult. He was probably motivated in some ways that I was not to exercise every day.
Oh, you mean literally, not like Ed Werder types.
He does look great. He is very fit, and he exercises every day, and he has kept that weight off. There was no fluctuation with that weight. There used to be, but then once he started working out every day, the fluctuation on the weight stopped, and also once he realized, oh, look, a television career. Not a lot of fat people on television.
Presents very well. No doubt. This recent fitness kick of his, well, I think 5 consecutive years.
Yeah, it's
of
not that
working out.
recent.
It's not even a kick at that point. Yeah, that certainly helped his job security, no doubt.
So I'm on bicycling.com, which is an actual website, and it says how this ESPN reporter has kept up a 324-day Peloton streak. And it was about Dan Graziano, and it was written in 2021.
Whoa.
Who owns that website? Is that Stugotz? Did Stugotz finally get one of them?
It's actually realbicycling.com.
I don't mean to be a naysayer here, but am I the only one who thinks there's a little too much braggadocio in a guy who tweets out that he has a 1,900-day streak of exercising? Because I tell you what. No.
Wait till
No.
2000.
Hell no, because at certain points, he's had a 4-year streak of working out every day, and we didn't know about it.
Yeah, so he had to get to 5. Should have waited till 10.
Well, but you know what they
because-
do, though? Like, you get the update on the Peloton. Okay, congratulations, 1,900 days. And there's that
A
clip
badge.
on the bottom where it's share with your Twitter. And so we clicked on it, you know, and there you go.
Okay.
Your
You know.
books are on the table.
That's a good point. But I'm not bragging about how many books I've sold or what streak I have of
You just
selling a
got done
book.
saying you're prouder of your books who have never disappointed you than you are of your sons.
I didn't exactly say that, did I?
I want to hear these rankings.
You did say that. You
I
said
think that's exactly what you
I
said.
said
don't
my
remember
books
saying
have
that.
never
Word
disappointed
for
me.
word.
That's the only thing I said.
It implies.
No, that's fine. I mean, you know, let's. But and love Dan Graziano. Don't get me wrong.
Sounds like it.
Well,
I think he could walk in the room and I actually used to work with him. I was going to say
Yeah,
that's
I
actually.
mean-
Well, he
that's
used to be a
on me.
fatso, according to Dan, so he may not recognize
You know
him.
what? I love that he's lost a lot of weight. I love that he exercises, but people who don't exercise fanatically don't want to hear about other people, you know, having great feats on a treadmill or something.
So what you're saying is instead of putting out his streak, he should just put out a picture of his Peloton. Like you just put out a picture of your book, or just sit your book on the table.
Well, he
Just
could
put your
do- yeah,
Peloton
sure.
there, and then we could just admire his Peloton.
Yeah, and let people surmise.
Exactly.
how
Can
often
I
he
stop
uses
you
it.
for a second? And I want to get to Tony's Skip Bayless fact in a second, but I've lost Mike Ryan. He's off to sea, and I've noticed this over the last couple of years. It doesn't happen that often in the morning where we have live sports television that allows gambling. But Mike Ryan is gone because he's looking at a television here. What are you watching that you have action on that makes you a specific kind of degenerate on a Tuesday morning?
We got a sicko's delight inside the ACC. The ACC baseball tournament is underway. classic ACC matchup between Cal and Miami. This game, the first pitch was at 6 a.m. Pacific time for those watching at Berkeley. We got underway with a bunt single. I am locked in, positively dialed.
They started at 6 a.m. playing baseball?
Pacific time.
9 a.m.
This is at the Durham
game's
Bulls.
here.
Well, no, it's in Durham.
I mean, East Coast, though.
Yeah, East Coast. But Cal, ACC member,
Yeah, okay.
this is a 6 a.m. start for
So
their
9 a.m.
natural,
local, but 6 a.m. back there.
for their body clocks. Yeah, they probably pulled up to the stadium. Their bodies thought it was like 4:30 a.m.
It looks like there's 63 people there.
Yeah, really. Looks like a Marlins crowd.
I thought you were saying it was at Berkeley. I don't know that there's a lot more absurd between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. on a Tuesday for a baseball game. They're both pretty absurd.
That's some Dan math going on. You send a lot of early texts.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say the difference is 3 hours.
It's a major difference between 6 and 9.
To their bodies, you think the guys in California right now the guys playing for California feel a lot different than they would 6 a.m. back home right now, opening at 9 a.m. Because my guess is they were up at 6 anyway.
For the Cal guys, it probably got into town at like 9 p.m. too. They might as well have played it at 2 a.m.
But they're not getting up at like 10 to 6, for they're preparing.
That's right. What I'm saying is the difference is between 6 and 9 isn't the 3 hours that you think it is. It's the difference between 3 and 6 because of all the preparation they have to do before first pitch. Like they're actually getting up at the time you're alleging they're not getting up. They're just not playing at 6 a.m., but they're sure as shit up at 6 a.m.
Late May is always great for the sickos. You got the baseball conference tournaments going on, and pretty soon we have Roland Garros. So your boy's going to be knee-deep in action by the time 4:30 a.m. rolls around.
What do you make of the obsessive compulsiveness I'm talking about? Because workout people who work out every day are absolutely the people who are telling you they work
love to
out.
tell you.
They're working out every day. They're showing you the receipts. They're on the gram telling you about their workouts. There are very few people who work out every day, and no one knows that
Why
they're
is
working
that?
out every day.
We don't talk about
We
that,
don't
Mike.
talk at all about that. No, we just show you guys incredible results without mentioning how
Lifting iron, pumping iron, that's what we do.
We're stacking plates in that iron
Caddies.
table all the time. What'd you have for breakfast? A 45 plate?
Clanging and banging.
Thank you.
What is the Skip
45
Bayless stat?
Speaking of clanging and banging, so he works out 3 times a week with weights, and then he does cardio every single day. On Sundays, he does something special where he does an 8-mile run, and then the last mile, he does it at a faster pace than all the other ones. But he's also training his mind and doing mental stimulation as well.
You got to give me, though, the stat, please. 2 missed workouts in 20 years. There's a specific stat involved that Skip Bayless throws around.
It's no Graziano, I'll tell you that right now.
We're now going to have to get on Graziano.
I found a picture of him on his bike, Greg, if you want to question whether or not he's actually look at
right,
that guy.
I'm looking at it.
Look at those tries. Oh,
Yeah, okay.
What do you mean, okay? What are you mocking
it's
Graziano
just,
for?
that's 5 years old, that photo
The whole
also.
exercising culture,
I'd like to see what mile he's on. Like, do we know it's not like LeBron where he's on the first page of the book?
Wow.
Good
Come on,
point.
guys. He has boxing gloves in the background of this photo. He has what seems to be a weight rack behind him. Like,
Yeah,
there's clearly
strategically
results.
placed.
Small weight rack.
Well, I
Very
don't
small.
understand what you guys are doing. You're questioning whether or not someone's working out. And then we're praising Skip Bayless, who skipped 2 days in 20 years. Like, why is that praiseworthy?
Well, hold on. It's been longer than 20 years, by the way. So he's not missed a single cardio workout since May 3rd, 1998. Oh, bullshit. Due to a sinus infection, by the way, Dan. And he has not missed a lifting day since 1982.
They didn't even lift weights in 1982.
Oh,
What,
buddy.
he invented weightlifting? Like, get out of here. When were the Bash Brothers? When was that? That was like 89.
Late 80s.
They invented weightlifting and steroids.
How about Arnold?
No, please, Arnold.
What do you mean? Was
No, it was the Bash Brothers at Le Batard Show.
Jose Canseco invented weightlifting. We all know it. You can tag him. He'll retweet it. He'll confirm it. I guarantee you by day's end. Thank you.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Did the Bash Brothers invent weightlifting? You guys have now criticized. You said that can't be true, and you called bullshit on everything we were saying here. Let me play this Shaq sound for you guys, because this is something else. We need a new segment, That Ain't True, or That's Bullshit, where we just accuse someone straight of lying. Shaq does this all the time. Shaq doesn't care what he has to say in order for people to pick up what he said. And so here is Shaq lying.
In 1992, I think the draft was in June or something, I meet Mr. Stern in March. And he says to me, hey, you know, you are, Can't wait for you to come to the NBA. Then he pulls me to his side. You want to play where it's cold or where it's hot? He asked me that. Yeah, he did. He asked me that, and I was like, hot. And he smiled, and I smiled. And then a couple of days later, they had the draft thing, and the top 3 things. And then Minnesota was number 3. I was like, and then Charlotte was number 2, and then Orlando, Florida was number 1. I was like, I didn't think anything about it, but you hear a lot of these conspiracy theories, and there's a lot of situations that could make these things sound good and sound true. Like, okay.
What are you shaking your head about?
Judge Zaz?
I love him so much, but he is so full of shit. I mean, we're talking something that was over 30 years ago, so it's definitely like a game of telephone. Where
the man is dead. Who
Yes.
like this is the best way to tell lies.
Yes.
The dead do not tell lies. The dead do not rebut arguments.
And he would never make that claim if that man, David Stern, were still alive, all right? Because David Stern doesn't even have to be the commissioner anymore to call Shaq into his office after
He waited plenty of time just to make sure he was dead before he made that allegation. Because you do not make that allegation while David Stern is alive or while he's being mourned recently after dying. You wait several years to do that.
Look, Shaq was a big-time prospect. We knew he was going to go number 1 overall. But how does it benefit David Stern or the NBA to send Shaq to the exact location he wants to go to? Don't forget, Shaq did no winning at LSU. None. How does it benefit the NBA or Shaq? Shaq, where do you want to go? Got it. How does that benefit the league?
Let's think about for a second Shaq doing no winning at LSU while Stanley Roberts was playing next to him. They had 2 NBA 7-footers, and Dale Brown didn't know how to win with them. LSU also has winning 10 games with Ben Simmons on its roster and not making the NIT tournament. That's some historic bad from LSU on getting first-round talents and not being able to do anything with it.
And that's when Ben Simmons was good.
Well, they didn't make the NIT with a number 1 overall pick.
Coach's fault.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is it impossible to not make the NIT if you have a healthy number 1 pick playing well? Because you're right, Ben Simmons wasn't what he is now, where he can't make a jumper back then.
I did some research into this Arnold Schwarzenegger situation. Apparently, he won weightlifting contests in 1964 and 1965. He also won the 1967 Munich stone lifting contest, in which a stone weighing 508 German pounds is lifted between the legs while standing on 2 footrests. 508 German pounds, in case you're wondering, is 560 regular pounds.
I don't know what that means.
It means he invented weightlifting.
I don't know the difference between German pounds and regular pounds.
It's about 52 when you get to 560 regular.
I thought we all did the same kinds of pounds.
Yeah, I did too. Don't they use kilograms in Germany?
Well, that would make
254 kilograms, 560 pounds, 508 German pounds.
I've never heard the phrase German pounds.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is there such a thing as German pounds? Are German pounds different, I guess, than American pounds?
So looking here, it says the Anglo-American pound is about 453 grams, where a German pound is just half a kilogram, which is 500 grams. So that's once you extrapolate that over
what
many pounds.
What other kinds of pounds are there? Who else has, I didn't know Germans had their own pounds. How many other kinds? Do the French have their own pounds?
They're sand.
Mm-hmm. Pound cake.
Oh, yeah.
This is our metric system. They can't play fast and loose with our metric system. We're not trying to, or wait, unless we are. Are we trying to tell them what a kilogram is? No. I don't think so.
I want to get to this hockey game tonight. We have another hockey game tonight, and we have the Final Four in both sports, and we haven't heard yet from Mike Ryan on having to eat the public shame of the following. 1, Brad Marchand is the greatest playoff scorer against the Maple Leafs that isn't named Gordie Howe. And Brad Marchand is presently the Panthers' point leader during the playoffs.
I feel no shame. I don't understand what you continually try to do. I don't like Brad Marchand. That's fine. He's a key contributor on a team that's in the Eastern Conference Finals. I move on. My team is in the Eastern Conference Finals for the 3rd consecutive year. I don't have to like the guy, nor do I have to make it a thing.
The thing that I'm trying to make you eat is that you've been wrong about his contributions. And furthermore, the other thing I'm trying to make you eat that we didn't get to nearly enough yesterday is I heard Paul Maurice say He didn't want to use the word hate. Hate's a strong word, but that he thought Brad Marchand was the total opposite of what Brad Marchand actually is. And then what he says is he's a wonderful human being.
A lot of people that work in hockey that I'm close to tell me that I would absolutely love Brad Marchand if I ever met him, and I don't want to meet him. I don't have no interest in meeting the person. And I would say Brad has been a very good winger on what has been Florida's most consistent line for 3 playoffs now. You want to make the argument that he's been Florida's best player of the playoffs? That's a strong hand. I would disagree. I think his line mate on the other side of the wing, Luosterainen, has been phenomenal this playoff.
And Maurice gave Marchand credit for that. I disagree. That line has been good for 3 years. It has not been this for 3 years.
It has always been the line to get someone jump started.
It's always been a really good third line.
Well, but I don't want to defend Mike in this spot because God knows he's way off base when it comes to Brad Marchand. But that third line, like we could say that Marchand has helped make that line. Those are 2 super young players in Lundell and Luosterainen. Like they were going to continue getting better.
And they were never our best line in the last couple of years' playoffs. I'll keep saying this. They were a good third line. Mike is not wrong, but he's painting it like they were our best line.
I think when it comes to expectation, salary, devotion, and consistency, the third line's been Florida's best line for 3 playoffs. So and what I'm doing is a bit of a rhetorical trick because all the other lines have been pretty interchangeable, whereas in the third line, 2 names are written in Sharpie, unless Barkov's injured and then they move Lundell up. It's Lundell and Luosterainen.
Let's play the sound from last year. If you do not remember, and God, we made a lot of fun of Rod Brindamore, one of the great names in the history of
such a meathead coach
in the history of hockey. He doesn't think that Carolina was swept last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, excuse me. Even though, statistically, historically, in all the places we keep records and books, and not even AI can distort, it'll be remembered forever as a sweep. There's no other phrase for it. It doesn't have an asterisk on it. But he's also not wrong when he says the games were close and that everything was tight.
Okay, but so what is he saying? That sweeps are usually blowouts for 4 games? Like, who came up with that explanation?
Well, let's relive it in his own words because it begins again tonight. There's no rest for the champions. They immediately have to fight Carolina, and this. You say no problem.
Yeah, no problem.
But I say this will keep getting harder. I will say that Tampa was tough and Toronto was tough, and in order to win,
Tampa was tough. It's a cakewalk.
Only took me 5 games to get past.
Yeah, you even watched the series? Jeez Louise.
Can you tell me what a cakewalk is? Do you know what a cakewalk is?
You're not going to like this. You should not even mention it anymore.
I don't know what a cakewalk is.
Well, we've done this before. It's racial. And,
don't say grandfathered in either.
I think that's fine.
No, it's not. Look it up.
I can.
Okay.
So grandfathered is also racial? Like cakewalk. If I look up both of them, and I'm going to have to cancel it the way I have to cancel some Crows in 1919 Disney movies.
Well, I want to know now.
I do too. I don't remember what a cakewalk actually is. Put it on the poll. Do you know what a cakewalk actually is? And also play the Brindamore sound. Again, they were technically and historically and forevermore swept.
That's the unfortunate part of this is that he's going to look back and everyone's going to say you got swept, and that's not what happened. I watched the game. I'm there. I'm cutting the game. We're in the game. We didn't lose 4 games. We got beat, but it's. We were right there, and this could have went the other way, and it could have been 4 games the other way. And tonight, the way it ended is tough. Getting a penalty like that, that's tough. Especially what was let go, and then you go, that's gonna sting. But not to take anything away from the other team because they played hard, but I think we took a huge steps this year. Coming this far, like I said, with what we were missing is pretty impressive.
I'm glad he's not taking anything away from the Panthers, who swept them, and also acknowledges that the Panthers played hard. That's a good job out of meathead Rod Brindamore. But we didn't get swept. I was there. I watched it.
He said we got beat, but we didn't lose.
Right.
What?
I don't know what's going on there.
See, that's common for hockey coaches, though, right? Like Paul Maurice, after their series clinching 6-1 victory,
said how close it was.
Emphasized how close the game was. Okay, so coaches
Wasn't he more
rationalize-
so emphasizing how close the series was? It was 7 games.
The game was not close. 75 shots. 75
no.
shots in 2 periods is not a
My
close
dad
game.
is right. Even after the game 5, I'm telling you,
Yes.
he does this thing where he doesn't want his team to get too high, so he's just like, I know it's 6-1, but these are close.
Okay, but then that's not what Brandenburg's doing there because his season's over because he got swept.
In the history of Game 7s at home, there's only been one other that's been played that's that not close. So that Toronto game at the end was not close in any way, not mathematically, not historically.
The cakewalk originated in the antebellum South, where enslaved black people would perform stylized dances that mocked the formal European-style dances of their white enslavers. These dances were often held at gatherings on plantations.
Let's not put that poll up that we
Ouch.
just asked for.
The phrase grandfathered in originates from discriminatory practices in the southern United States after the Civil War, particularly in the context of voting rights.
Whoa!
You will not be able to make cancel culture so restrictive that I cannot walk around cakes. Me and Graziano are going to walk around cakes whenever we want
Not
to.
anymore. Graziano bike around them. Keep going.
I can't believe grandfathered is racist.
I'm surprised by that, too.
Grandfathers altogether are racist.
Well, generally, you know what? I should have known.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Our grandfathers as a group, is the median grandfather racist?
It's going to be like 95%.
And then you just always say, well, they're from a different time. That's what everyone says about their grandpa. It's different time.
Is the median grandfather racist? I think we can answer. I'm going to put that question down.
It's honestly the only unifying thing is every grandfather of every person of every race is racist.
That home
Every
run,
race.
Every race.
Really?
That home run ball may stay in that seat for the entirety of the game. There's nobody there. There is no one there to fetch it. It's just hanging around.
2-0 Cal.
There's the Durham Bull from Bull Durham. Is that the Bull Durham? Is that behind right field? Did California just go up 2-0 with a home run that hit the snorting, smoking bull in right field?
No, it hit an empty chair, but the snorting bull snorted.
Is that the Bull Durham Bull that they just showed?
Yes, it's in Durham.
Okay,
Yes,
I
that's where the Bulls
but
are
it
playing.
looks
What a
like-
coincidence that would be.
It looks, though, like it has been updated from the movie Bull Durham because the one I remember was not quite that new. It had been banged up by home run balls.
I would assume they've done some major facelift to the baseball stadium in Durham over the last 30 years.
Considering the number of people there or number of people that aren't there, do you think they're not chasing that home run ball because they know that a ball is going to come closer to them
That's right,
at
yeah.
some point in the game?
Precisely. Like, we'll get the next one, kid.
Forgive me for this. Executive producer Chris Cody forgot to play the song we were supposed to play at the top of the show that involves Greg Cody, his father.
Blow Canada, another Game 7 down the drain. From Edmonton to Toronto, the Florida Panthers bring the pain. Blow Canada, a first Stanley Cup since '93 would be nice. Instead, our nation's fallen tears make up our sheets of ice. Brad Marchand owns the Leafs. It cannot be debated. Just as sure as all Canucks, no Connor still much overrated.
A good executive producer decision to not open the show with that. Greg Cody's second Blow Canada type of song, making fun of the Canadian anthem. It's still several behind the Row, Row, Row Your Boat renditions he has done when he quit actually trying
Why
to
don't
be
you play a couple of those?
When
The
he-
row, row, row
Those are
your
suspect at this point.
when he quit trying to be the singing sports writer because he ran out of songs and they all became a form of Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Well, Greg's a grandfather now. He's from a different time.
That was not a row, row, row your boat. That was an O Canada parody.
I know. I was saying that's second only to because you're now in reruns on the O Canada parodies.
Well, it's a classic. When you do something twice, 2 years in a row, you're not running out of ideas. You're continuing a classic. You're making it an annual event.
So you're like telling a story almost.
Yes, but you're changing the lyrics to adapt to the times. Like Marchand would not have been mentioned in my O Canada parody a year ago.
It's like Fast and the Furious. It's an icon that withstands time. You get to keep bringing it back because people want it brought back.
Correct.
Star Wars, Mission Impossible. There's a new Mission Impossible coming out. It may get me to theaters, Dan.
Yeah, it's a
We're gonna be honest
franchise.
with you. I don't know.
The
We'll
Final
see.
Reckoning?
Maybe. It's not the
Is
final
it is
one.
it
Let's
the
be real.
Final Reckoning or just Final Reckoning?
Final Reckoning.
There's no the in there?
No, the.
Well, I don't understand. Like, Billy doesn't go to movies? Is that what we're talking about here?
Not theaters, no. I'm not a theater guy. Are you?
Yeah.
You go? Why?
Because I like movies.
Yeah, but you can watch them at home.
No, but I go to 2 movies in the theater. We go to all the superhero movies, the Zaslow Men. We go to those in the theater. And we go to all the horror movies in the theater, too.
All of them.
Why'd you say it
All
like
of
that?
them. Because we like horror movies.
Do you ever go to the IMAX or sit in the seats that move and do all of that
No,
stuff?
no, because I get vertigo, so I can't do that,
oh,
you know?
wow, rough.
And I don't do 3D either.
The
So I gotta-
Zaslow men get vertigo.
Not
Just
just
one.
me. Just
Yeah.
me. Just me. Yeah, so I gotta be careful.
You
Put
get
it-
seasick as well?
No.
Oh.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju at Le Batard Show. Do you get vertigo at the moving seats during a horror movie?
No,
at
the
Le
moving
Batard
ones,
Show.
yeah.
I know. What
4KX, RX3, Real D thing.
I did
this,
it one
that,
time. I
please.
almost fell out of the seat.
Yeah.
Really?
It's like a roller coaster.
Nothing
Yeah.
can prepare you for the first time that you do that.
I almost fell out.
I was sitting there with a bottle of wine. It was a bottle of red. Huge mistake.
Wow.
Can you guys please try and reach Dan Graziano and accuse him to his face of not being someone who works out all the time? Because I do want to talk in general about the person who works out all the time and the person who says he or she works out all the time. Scott Price, exceptional writer, Miami Herald, Sports Illustrated. He's on the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody this week.
Yep.
And Scott Price is somebody who many years ago for Tropic Magazine was writing an article, and he was just at the gym writing about someone on a treadmill running in place, and he made it a symbol for a generation. The vanity of running in place while staring into a mirror and never having a generation that has to endure a war itself. Just sort of like how it is we became soft and we graduated from taking photos of ourselves on the treadmill to now we're just walking around taking photos of ourselves everywhere we are, including the movie theater. We've gone from a generation that was soft because all it did was exercise instead of, picking up stones, 500 German pound stones, and throwing them into the sky. Instead of doing hard things, we just dabbled in self-involvement.
Right. And the fallacy of the whole exercise culture is that it guarantees nothing. As an example, I would say Jim Fixx, the inventor of running, died at 52.
What do you mean inventor of running?
He invented running. Jim Fixx.
He's right.
Like the Bash Brothers did invent weightlifting?
Inventing running.
You can look it up.
Well, I guess he discovered it technically, right? Is this like a classic
He's considered-
electricity thing?
Yeah, he's considered the father of the whole running.
Invent versus discovered, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Put
he
it,
invented
put
running,
it on
died
the
at
poll
52.
at Le Batard Show. Did Jim Fixx invent running? Also, look up for me, Chris, if you could, the mistake that Stugotz made one time reading the internet poorly while I think looking up something involving Muay Thai, which he mispronounced, but he claimed reading something that someone had invented jumping, and they'd done it like 10 years previous to when we were talking about it, that jumping had not been invented before then.
So Jim Fixx is a real person, FIXX Fix, and he is credited with helping start America's fitness revolution by popularizing the sport of running.
Again with the fire alarm, huh?
We're good.
We're never going to listen to the fire alarm. Do you ever leave? Do any of you ever leave where you are? How long does it take you to leave where you are if the fire alarm is going off?
Never.
You guys never
I need to
leave?
see the fire.
No. In school, they used to have those, remember? They used to have fire alarms in school.
Yeah, fire drills.
Fire drills.
Yeah.
It's partially school's fault because they were always drills. So
Right.
I assume this is a drill.
Yeah. Does school still do fire drills? I don't even know.
I would assume so.
And they do other drills as well that'll
Yeah.
break your heart.
Well, that's sad. Yeah, no doubt about that. Although we did during the Cuban Missile Crisis, we had to put our head under the desk. I remember that.
That'll help you survive a bomb.
Yeah,
A nuclear one.
they thought so at the time. We all put our head under the desk.
Did you have bunk mates underneath in your bunker, your desk bunker?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
How long do you guys wait before you leave if an alarm is going off? At some point, I know in my building, where it is that I live, if it's going off for more than 10 minutes, I do not want to die a fiery death while being upstairs because a fire is gathering. After 10 minutes, I will have to evacuate because that seems like a horrible way to die.
If
And
I smell smoke. If I smell smoke for myself, I'll be like, all right, this confirms earlier reports.
Could be real.
I
But do
wait
you
for
stop?
someone in charge.
Yeah, I thought you had to stop, drop, and roll if you saw fire.
No, that's if you get caught.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine just seeing fire and stop, drop, and roll?
You're outside,
Yeah, I mean-
like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It always seemed like an odd thing to do, but I was like, whatever you say, officer.
Well, that's how to put yourself out if you're on fire.
Really? Is
Yes.
that so?
Yeah, you stop,
all right,
drop,
look,
and
he's
roll.
not listening, so I'm going to have to.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes for not listening.
I was listening.
In Greg's defense, Billy is moving very quickly today.
Yeah, see? Thank you, Mike. He knows.
It's hard to follow.
It's too bad here because you probably wanted to talk Lionel Messi, saying this is a complicated time for
too bad.
Inter Miami, losing 3-0 to Orlando City, lost 5 of their last 7. We can't get your expertise on this, so we're going to have to settle for Mike's.
Now they
3-0,
got the FIFA Club World Cup coming up, and they're taking a shit.
Okay, you can leave now. You can
Looks like they
leave.
have an
Okay,
early
all right,
bird.
hold on a second. All right, what is this one?
2 minutes right here in the shipping container for trying to leave.
You're on a roll. You
So
were
he
so
comes
good
in here?
yesterday, too, man.
Wait, then he comes into here?
It says leaving on the button.
He's just chilling in the bullpen.
He doesn't respect what we're doing around here, and it's problematic. Lionel Messi, I worry that this is the end of things, only because I keep expecting him and that team to age, and once they get to the losing of 5 of 7, I'm assuming aging's going to happen here at some point to these people, correct?
Wait, so do you see a scenario where like he doesn't even make it to the new stadium?
I'm saying that 5 out of 7 losses with a team that Lionel Messi is on and healthy, given what I've seen is the difference between him and everyone else playing in that league. I don't understand losing 3-0 to Orlando City, and I don't understand Messi playing minutes and them losing 5 out of 7 games if he's on the field the entire time.
They've kind of fallen off the face of the earth, really, after they lost to Vancouver. They've had a lot of fixtures, more fixtures than most MLS teams because of the deep run in that specific competition. But, his contract expires December 31st.
Yeah, is next year an option in the new stadium?
If you're looking for signs of encouragement, his friend Jordi Alba, who joined Inter Miami around the same time, a Barcelona teammate, did just extend to 2027. I haven't done reporting on Messi since I broke the biggest story in the history of South Florida sports. Wow. So I can poke around. He's getting older at a time that they're about to move into the stadium that's been put off for several years. You'd like to open that stadium with Lionel Messi, but they have a relatively unproven head coach that got off to a really fast start, and there's a little adversity here. Now, Orlando is a good team inside the Eastern Conference, but what a difference 3 weeks make. Miami was cruising atop the Eastern Conference, and now they're right in that area of like struggling to make the playoffs, but it's a long season, and they'll usually figure things out.
They would have pushed back on it being the biggest story in the history of Miami sports.
Because, okay.
Yeah.
You don't think Messi coming to town is up there?
No, no. It's up there. You said it's the biggest story in the history of Miami
Well,
sports.
he broke the biggest story.
Yeah.
That he broke it. It's that he broke a story.
Well,
no
he's
one,
saying it's not the biggest, is Azzo's thing.
That's all right. I'm
He
just
thinks
trying to
Mike
boost
Piazza.
my own credentials by putting the story over. If I say it's the biggest story, then I make myself look better because I broke it.
Okay. I don't agree with it being the biggest story.
What'd you think it was? Lance Stevenson getting drafted by Big Three?
What's the biggest?
Michael Beasley demanding a trade from Big Three.
Yo, Michael Beasley is a Heat lifer. He was not consulted on this Lance Stevenson draft pick, and he's like, I'm out of here.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, because it's on site with Lance Stevenson.
They're playing one-on-one,
I
though.
like it.
I don't like this one bit. Lance Stevenson, you don't make that kind of acquisition in Miami.
I like it.
And where is Big Three leadership? This is right up there with Marchand. Like, this is not something that you do. You don't bring Lance Stevenson to Miami.
No, it's not like that at all. Marchand's a champion.
Credit to Michael Beasley, who I believe is also a champion. Is he not? Was he not on one of those teams?
I don't think so.
He wasn't?
No, but
he wasn't on one of the
No,
LeBron
I
teams
don't
that made
think
it?
so.
He was on 14 that lost.
Oh.
Mike said it best. The press box has changed. I mean, seriously, get over yourself. We're going to talk during the post game. Tim Reynolds, enough. I mean, enough.
I mean,
seriously.
you just got to know when
You're
the
not allowed to cheer in the press box. Did you know that?
Well, I did.
They were cheering for Will
Manso.
Manso. I think that's allowed.
And Goldie.
If the Dan Le Batard Show comes to a hockey press box, hilarity is going to ensue.
Yeah.
They're going to yell at Will Manso for 7 minutes, and you're probably going to have to go to a
7
stairwell
seconds.
to write, man. It's
if it was 7 minutes, I'd get it.
It
was
is what
7
it is.
seconds.
Exactly. I mean, David, everyone else was saying hi. They were enjoying the show. They were laughing at us. But one guy is still clutching on to his newspaper deadline.
I'm a little
and it's
disappointed.
Tim Reynolds.
And is he your demographic, Stu?
I don't know.
I happen to like Tim a lot, and
Enough of him.
I imagine this was going to be like E.J. Raddick or something, but that's just a bad look for Tim Reynolds.
Listen, I went up to him afterwards.
This was the best part. Stugotz
Yes.
is like, I've known Tim for years. I'm going to go fix this. He walked to Tim and walked right back very quickly.
Yep.
It was a very quick interaction.
Well, he was writing. Okay?
He's on deadline. It's
Enough of the deadline.
It's a
We're on deadline. I gotta get home. I feel like playoff hockey. I got to get home. I mean,
Yeah, we're on deadline too. We got to get that post game out.
It is a working press box. Tim Reynolds is a journalist who's trying to write, and Stugotz is back there. Hey, Will Manso!
that was Chris and Goldie. Don't leave out Goldie.
We're on deadline too. They're going to kick us out of that press box a lot sooner than they'll kick out Tim Reynolds, who's just typing away. That's just
Those writers had their game stories done before the end of the
Precisely.
Yeah, a good writer, right?
Oh,
What happened there? I apologized to him. I've known Tim for decades. I mean, Cody was done. He was out of there. I mean, you know.
What was that interaction like, Stugotz? Take us behind the scenes. You walk up to him, you say what, he says what.
I said, Tim, I apologize. That's on me. I should know better. Not Chris, okay? I should know better. I've been in press boxes before. I know you have a deadline. I apologize. And he said, that's fine. Just, try to keep it down.
That is way too long.
That was
Way
much
too
longer
long.
than the actual
He's on
conversation.
deadline.
I always extend it a little bit. I mean, you guys
Can
know
we
that.
call Tim Reynolds and just ask him about what the
Don't,
interaction was
no,
like?
no.
Greg Cody's back in my day. Seeds.
Seeds. Seeds. Had a slice of watermelon lately? Popped a few grapes in your maw? Then you probably notice seeds are disappearing from fruit. And you probably see this as a good thing just because it makes life a little easier. We love us some convenience. In fact, it's a terrible thing, the de-seeding of us. Symbolically alone, the seed is the king of life. Adam gave his to Eve, and here we are, if you believe the story. If they take the seed out of humans the way we have watermelons, we're all dead ducks. Beans, peas, rice, coffee, corn, all seeds. Flour and oil started as seeds. All hail seeds. So what the hell is happening? In exchange for convenience, we are not valuing the seed's impact on health, biodiversity, and our food system. The genetic variability of most plants require seeds as essential to their evolution. De-seeded, artificially homogenized fruits rely on human intervention in the reproductive process, exposing the fruits to many pathogens. Plainly put, seedless fruits are not as good for you. They contain less fiber and have fewer minerals and vitamins than their seeded natural brethren. Seedless fruits also have fewer antioxidants, plant-based nutrients, and anti-inflammatory properties. But enough about this science. Bring back seeds because seeds are fun, not to mention aesthetically and visually pleasing.
This episode is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
I'm curious if any of you have the same problem I do as I've aged with the analysis of sports changing, just because the hedge fund numerology involved with identifying inefficiencies make it so that all teams are now copycatting each other on how to get more information, on how to maximize the numbers, and it's distorting how enjoyable everything is from an entertainment experience. But from an analysis perspective, one of the things that's becoming more difficult for me around sports, and it has since Tom Brady, we talked yesterday about bad takes in the history of the show, Tom Brady had a Hall of Fame career just in the time after I wondered whether he would age like all other quarterbacks. And so when it comes to Messi, for example, or LeBron, or Tom Brady, or even Damian Lillard coming off an Achilles, making it so Giannis doesn't want to be there anymore, because why would I want to be there when he's taking up $58 million and I don't want to waste another year of my prime not winning the championship? How players age is something with science that's becoming impossible for me to guess. When does Messi get old? When does Brady get old? When does Aaron Rodgers get old? When does LeBron get old? When all previous metrics suggest I'd be right every other time that I guessed 3 or 4 years earlier that those athletes would indeed get old. Or Diana Taurasi, and they don't get old. They play into their 40s because science has changed how it is that people age.
I also think that in the case of LeBron and Tom Brady and Messi, we've seen other people age at a normal rate, and we keep wondering, like, what kind of science do they have? Well, part of the reason is they're the greatest of all times.
Right.
Like that might be their secret to aging, is that Tom Brady, LeBron James, Messi, Serena, they're doing these unprecedented things because they were just that damn good. And are you already at the point where Messi is getting old? Is that what you think is happening?
I just keep waiting for something to indicate to me that he's not the best player in the world.
I
like
think,
that
look,
after
well, he plays for the MLS.
But after 35, but he just won
but
a
when he
World
plays
Cup.
when he plays internationally, though, he's still bossing the games for Argentina. I think we're not at that point yet. I think you look at an unproven head coach in Javier Mascherano that is Argentinian, that has a link to Messi, and you can start poking holes and say maybe that wasn't the right guy for the job.
I mean, isn't the sign that he's aging, though, that he went to the MLS?
Historically, you'd be right, but that's usually what happens with that league is they get older players.
Didn't he come to the MLS as the best player in the world?
Yeah, he came a couple months removed from being the best player in the World Cup and having an all-time final with Mbappe matching him shot for shot. Yeah, he was the best player in the world when he showed up here.
Well, part of this may be playing the result on my part, but I've only thought the past couple of months that Messi looks slow compared to the game. Like I've seen Vancouver, I saw that. Might have been the Minnesota game where you're watching the game and you're like, these younger players, barely half his age, are faster than him.
Really?
Yeah.
He always kind of approaches the game with a stroll. He conserves his energy.
Yeah,
which
I mean,
is what,
he essentially walks half the game.
Which is why what was so shocking is we're about a month and a half removed from one of the craziest MLS games I've ever seen. It was in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against LAFC, where he is sprinting the entire time. Honestly, if you want to look at what happened to Miami, it kind of dropped off after that performance because of how much they put into it. They're an older roster, and they went like crazy trying to get that result to advance in that tournament.
It is interesting him speaking the way that he just did with, fans got to stay with us, it's hard, yada, yada. Has he ever spoken to the media before this?
He does.
He does. He doesn't speak very much in English, and so
they never make him available.
No.
Never.
That's a fault of Inter Miami.
Usually handpicked. Yeah, they have like some media availabilities depending on the competition and they'll do like one-off like profiles on him, but he's pretty guarded.
Can you guys find for me, please? I don't know what the rights issues would be, but I remember seeing him on a Japanese television show doing amazing tricks one time because Messi's availability is limited. He tends to be not very interesting in interviews even when he gives them. It's one of the reasons I'm skeptical of Michael Jordan being a broadcaster the same way I was skeptical of Tom Brady being a broadcaster. He's never said interesting things. Why would he say interesting things on a broadcast?
I don't think it's about Messi saying something interesting. I think it's about you're in MLS now and you're in a new country. Maybe, get in front of the fan base every now and then and say a couple things.
Oh, but it's his play that speaks for him, and he doesn't have any trouble selling the sport. He's not going to do it with words. Like, there's nothing Messi selling with words, I don't think.
No, the biggest thing that's stopping the league from growing is the fact that most of its season exists behind a paywall when it's not mature enough to be making that kind of move.
It is an interesting business decision, a daring one, and I believe a smart one internationally to make people in the streaming age pay for the right to watch Messi when everyone in the world who loves soccer wants to watch it.
I didn't order it this year. I don't have it.
Well, you probably get it for free if you have Xfinity or T-Mobile. There's a bunch of corporate tie-ins that you get it for free.
I was getting it for free with my season tickets, but I didn't renew this year.
Yeah, it's. I think it's proof positive that it's been a dumb strategy for MLS to do this before the World Cup. Internationally, they don't release these numbers. We don't know what their subscription model looks like. We know that Messi gets a cut reportedly of it, but I think it was really, really dumb to put your domestic league, the biggest domestic league that you have, behind a paywall before the World Cup is here. You got to make the game as accessible as possible, as the entire world is going to be traveling here next summer, and then you start shooting your shots. But it needs to be way more accessible than it is right now.
You say it's dumb, and it may indeed have been dumb for MLS. Not dumb for Apple, that needs to recoup its investment by making sure they charge for the fact that they got the best player in the world to play behind a paywall, and they make the fans pay for that. It's an easy, smart way for Apple to increase its subscriptions, whether you care about the rest of what Apple is doing or not. It's a must.
I can't argue for it or against it because I don't see the numbers. I would say that I don't know a lot of people that have MLS Season Pass.
Oh, but I think this is an international play as much as it is an American play, and it's just to get Apple subscribed. Like the reason Apple gets in the game, it's the reason that Apple's trying to get in the game with all the big brands. They do a documentary with Magic Johnson. They do a documentary with the Patriots. They're not doing the documentaries that Untold is doing. They're just doing giant brands that have mass appeal.
So people watch Shrinking in Argentina?
No, I mean, this is not my opinion. Apple's cutting back on their development budget because they spend so much money and they're not getting a lot of subscribers. Like their struggles in acquiring subscribers, both domestically and internationally, are well reported on. So I would venture to say there's probably some buyer's remorse on the MLS deal just because I don't know a lot of people that have it. I don't see a lot of people talking about it. I think the league has somehow dropped in its profile despite having the most famous soccer player in the league, which is just unimaginable.
Let me take another approach on this, though, in the analysis of how it is that people age and where it is the science makes this difficult. The Untold series on Netflix is very hit or miss, okay? They've got one on Gilbert Arenas called Shooting Guards, which is what you have to call that one. Thank you, Billy.
That one?
They have one on Favre that doesn't have access to Favre, so it's going to be more interesting than the one that did or would have access to Favre because you trade something with the access. But they had a terrible one on Liver King. And Liver King, if you're not familiar,
the dude that eats the
testicles, and he says he lives a primal diet.
Primals. That's just what he calls people.
Well,
like
he did eat the
people.
primal diet. He just was also doing steroids.
Well, this is the thing, though. Yes, he was doing a lot of steroids. He
was doing both.
But his body had nothing to do with the fact that he was eating testicles and livers. It had to do with he was doing a copious amount of steroids because no one looks like that. No human being, no matter their weightlifting, even if their weightlifting is often as Graziano and Skip Bayless, no one can look like Liver King. But what I wanted to say to you in terms of what the average person knows, has knowledge of when it comes to science and sport is very limited because it was obvious simply from looking at Liver King. That ain't natural. That's obviously not natural. How is that selling natural supplements? There's no way that the human body looks like that.
A lot of bone marrow.
It was a con. But when I talk to you about science, athletes aging, and how competitive these people are. Because it's really nice to believe, Mike, what you're saying. Well, they're the best ever. So, of course, they would age differently than all other humans because they're the best ever. Or competitive people have learned that there's a fountain of youth. And Jose Alvarado gets suspended this last weekend for 80 games. And nobody gives a bleep because there's no actual consequences to this. You'll get the 80 games and you'll lose the salary. Obviously, that is consequence, but Alvarado has already gotten all the money and is unhittable or has been unhittable. The entire time I've been watching that guy, I don't understand how anyone hits him. The reason is, because he wasn't even very good last year, is because he's often behind 3-1 or 2-0 and then has to throw one of those pitches in an area where he's behind in the count.
Dude, that guy is totally natural, Dan. I don't know what you're talking about. Look at him here. Look at his abs, dude.
That's disgusting.
Does 10,000 crunches a day, Dan. That's what you would look like if you did 10,000 crunches a day right there.
He does not
He's
look
not breathing, right?
very healthy. He is
Vascular, though.
Jeez. I don't like it.
That's from eating bull testicles right there. Rocky Mountain oysters, Dano. Start using.
Jose Alvarado suspended for 80 games. He is the closer for the Philadelphia Phillies. He was a setup man. Again, he's a little inaccurate. He doesn't always throw the ball over the plate. But what I'm asking you guys is, Jose Alvarado does not look like somebody that you would ever accuse of 80-game suspension without pay because he's using PEDs. And so I ask you.
Is that like D. Gordon? He'd be the last person that you thought, right?
Or Peyton Manning when he's his wife is getting, Al Jazeera is allegedly reporting that his wife is getting human growth hormone. I don't believe that anyone talking about sports, covering sports, writing sports on any mainstream media outlet is versed enough in what cheating actually looks like at the most competitive levels where you have the economics to be the best ever. And you could do what LeBron James does, which has like a team of Navy SEALs to work on his body. Once upon a time, a million years ago, when Jamal Mashburn was the one inventing exercise instead of Jim Fixx, Jamal Mashburn made a big show of traveling with his body mechanics guy, paying whatever it was, $100,000 or $150,000 a year. Every city, his guy is coming and stretching him no matter where he is when he needs it. And the economy around these guys has gotten so strong that Kobe, at the end of his career, is going to Germany for whatever it is the blood spinning is.
Still past to Weatherspoon.
He did pass to Weatherspoon. There are no, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Are there any steroids that keep you from passing the last shot to Clarence Weatherspoon? Passing the last shot it was a Knicks series, right?
Yeah. I get Dan's argument, and I'm probably naive, but I've seen plenty of all-time great players try to do what Tom Brady did. I've seen Aaron Rodgers fail repeatedly trying to do it. I saw Drew Brees fail. Peyton Manning fell apart as his wife is getting reportedly stuff in the mail, reported by Al Jazeera. I've seen the all-time GOATs fall short of those guys. So what you're saying, why isn't it a universal rule? Why is it just these four athletes in Serena, Tom, LeBron, and now Messi that have found the best stuff that no one else can find?
And all at the same time.
Right. I just think we're at a place, yes, with science and nutrition that's different, and it's allowing all-time greats to be all-time great a little bit longer.
You see physically what Jose Alvarado looks like. We cannot do this that way anymore. The way that I was doing it with Brady is every quarterback who's ever thrown a football starts his precipitous decline at 37. There's no such thing as something after that for a quarterback. What LeBron James just did in that sport has no precedent. That's not what Kareem was doing at 40.
My argument is you could look at that and say, man, something's got to be going on over there. But the something can also be that might just be the greatest athlete at their sport we've ever seen, which could apply to all these people that I just named.
Tom Brady also said he never ate strawberries. So, I mean, I don't know long-term studies on strawberry health.
And it's not a universal rule. Tiger Woods, arguably all-time GOAT, body fell apart.
I think Mike has a point, though, because it's not always science, right? It's these guys are freaks of nature, these athletes we're talking about. And you see it in other walks of life. I mean, there was only one Albert Einstein. There was only one Sebastian Bach.
Understood, but Michael Jordan didn't play till he was 40. Like, Michael Jordan's game became jump shots, and he was the greatest there's ever been. It's easier to live in the space you guys are. It really is, to not be skeptical and just think, those people are aging differently than any other humans ever. And that provides you cover, the idea that you can say, well, they were already the greatest. But when I think of, you say Messi looks slow. Suarez has looked slow the entire time I've watched him. Like,
Suarez doesn't have knees.
But I'm saying that at 35 years old, we were talking about Giannis. Is he still in his prime? I think of an athlete's prime as their 20s. I do not and have never thought of an athlete's prime in their 30s. Paul O'Neill is one of the few baseball players ever who got better after the age of 33. It's just super rare. I don't think of the 30s as the prime of an athlete's career, but maybe I have to rethink it because Giannis is coming off of the best year of his career at 30.
I think the thing where you talk about prime is athletically and physically, yes, the prime is in the early 20s.
Primal.
But when your mind catches up to actually being able to read the game with that physicality, that's where you really turn into your prime. It's like Jokic. All of a sudden, he can do things that people can't with his mind. His body's still lagging in that area, but that's a prime example.
I think that the prime now, you have to say it's like 27 to 35. And similarly, lifespans are expanding. I mean, a generation ago, you lived to be 70. Now you expect to live to be 80. It's just, it's physiology.
Town elders used to be in their 20s at one point in time.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that's true.
That
Put
is
it on
true.
the poll. We'll see. Put it on the poll
my
at
gosh.
Lebatard Show. So there were no racist grandfathers back then
Town
because
elders.
everybody was elder at 20. Put it on the poll at Lebatard Show. Did town elders used to be 20 years old? Since I mentioned Giannis, I wanted to ask you guys how the Bucks should be handling this because, again, Damian Lillard is out for next season, is making $58 million next season. And it makes it so that Giannis isn't going to be able to win there next year.
You can't win when you have $60 million dead money on your cap. You can't.
They don't have the assets to do any of this also because of what they traded for him. So they're stuck. And I'm asking you what it is that the Bucks are supposed to do here merely publicly, because if I were the Bucks already and I didn't know behind the scenes of the problem I had on my hands, I would just come out and say Giannis isn't going anywhere. I would just say it. We value this player too much. We have no intention of trading him, but that's not what they're doing.
That's a part that's really interesting to me so far because it feels like this could be it finally for Giannis there, and you have all this chatter. And when there was chatter here in the middle of this season with a super secretive organization in the Miami Heat who don't address rumors and this kind of stuff, Pat Riley put out a statement and said, we are not trading Jimmy Butler. Yet you have all this talk going around now about Giannis, and it feels like this could be it. And no one's really pushing back in Milwaukee from all this conversation. So it kind of feels like this is a real thing that's about to happen.
And it looks like ownership kind of picked the GM because he extended before. You have all this commotion around the franchise with the early exit, but the GM kind of gets rewarded for the direction that they're either in or about to be in. With a new ownership group, that's usually a pretty good indicator if they extend the GM.
I totally get Milwaukee maybe thinking that this is the time to reboot between Lillard's injury, between the fact that Giannis right now is still considered in his late prime. You're going to get as much for him right now as you ever would, or certainly as you will in 3 years.
It'd probably be
Now's
the biggest
time.
haul in NBA history, right?
Now's the
what they
time.
could get for Giannis, I would assume.
I think most every team in the league pulls its roster out, puts it in front of Milwaukee, and just says, take what you want. Like almost every that matches up the salaries.
Doesn't it complicate things a little bit, though, watching what just happened in Dallas? Like, meaning, they have to frame it. Milwaukee has to frame it in some type of fashion of Giannis wanting out. Because with what just took place in Dallas and Nico Harrison nuking the franchise, Nico Harrison not win the number 1 overall pick. That's blind luck, all right? But you saw the way the fan base reacted and all that. The immediate summer after that, Milwaukee's going to do the exact same thing.
It's why I asked the question, because I think it's a paradigm shift what happened to Lillard. What happened to Lillard informs what happens after that. The reason I thought that Lillard was coming to Miami back when I was a Heat mouthpiece before I became, a journalist again.
Go on.
Is because if Lillard, a player of that stature, ever wants out, they get their way. This is the first time it hasn't happened. So what does Dallas do? Preemptively says, we're going to avoid the whole mess. We're going to do it on the other end of the extreme. And now what does that put Milwaukee, what position does that put them in?
So if you're Milwaukee, you say the buck stops here?
The thing is, Luka wouldn't have asked for a trade, right? Luka was completely content of being like a Dirk Nowitzki, I'm going to be in Dallas my whole career kind of guy. This was Nico Harrison saying, I'm going to play chess while everybody else is playing checkers. I'm going to trade him away. I don't like his body. We have a win-now window of 3 years. Let me get Anthony Davis. I like his body more.
I'm going to quote here Sam Amick. We trust him, right? He's quoting the Bucks GM, John Horst, is saying he's going to do what's best for the Bucks, not Giannis Antetokounmpo. Quote, this is from Sam Amick. John is not going to just try to be on good terms with Giannis. He's trying to do what's right by the Bucks. And Giannis has said his favorite cities are in Florida, correct?
He did. He did. Twitter.
Look at you! Look at the big smile. That's all you've got? Yeah,
Well,
he did, with a giant smile on your face.
I don't normally come out with the reports, but I put on my journalistic hat, Cody, last week, and I came out with the report.
Is that the hat? The journalistic hat? That
Don't
says
worry
Heat?
about
I'm
it.
just curious.
Don't worry about it. You're taking me off of my point here.
Uh-huh.
And the point is that
was
Giannis's
my intention.
people have already reached out to the Heat. I told you that. And now he's asked on Twitter, of all the cities you ever been to, which city would make you the happiest to be there? And he could have said any city. And he said Florida cities.
Wow. Is that your report?
No.
Oh, okay.
Giannis said that. You don't have to
Okay.
report something that actually the person does or says.
Struggling
okay.
to keep up to that.
Journalism, Greg.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
noticed
you tend to
in-
take credit for stuff like that.
In your journalism, the Heat gear has come out of the trash or whatever. Now that Giannis says he's interested in the Heat again. Today's Panthers game day. You're not wearing a Panthers
It was
clothes
just
anymore.
waking
What's
up.
going on
It
here?
was just waking up early and grabbing
Yeah.
what I wanted to grab.
You
That's
don't
all there is
say.
to it.
We couldn't have been able to tell. We thought it was the wardrobe
What?
allowance.
What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this?
Is that shirt?
Independent journalist.
Is that shirt like the you know?
wrong?
They sell the vintage, worn-looking clothes now. Like, there's no way that looked like that. Like, you bought that. That's new. There's probably still a tag on that.
Of course I bought it.
You're trying to make it seem like you're a weathered Heat fan and it's all worn out from wearing it so much.
Made
like
to
those,
look vintage,
Those
I think.
classic 2017 shirts that you
It's
brought
called
out the other day.
vintage.
Yeah.
Gotta have vintage.
That being said, I do think that shirt is 15 years old. It's just made
He
to
ca-
appear
he-
even
were you
older.
were you here the day that he had his top 5 like throwback shirts and they were all from 2019?
And my wife makes me give him to Goodwill after so long. What am I supposed to do?
You're wearing one that looks older than the three.
No, I like this one.
That's a 2023 shirt
No,
if
this
I've
is a
ever
good
seen one.
shirt,
That's
yo.
fake vintage.
You brought 3 shirts in that were
Yeah.
meant to show that your closet is aged, fossilized, dusty, and cobwebbed.
Really
and
comfortable.
all of them looked less old than the one that
Wow.
you're presently wearing.
Yeah, but I look good today.
Do
You look like radio. I'm not sure that you look good today. You always look like radio. I love that you look like radio. We're in no position to make fun of how anyone dresses or looks.
You think he was talking about Delray?
Oh my God, I'm a Delray guy.
Delray
now.
is having a moment.
It is.
You see the new disco that they have?
I couldn't get.
We all got targeted.
70s theme bar.
I went up there with friends for dinner this weekend. Couldn't get in there. Line was too long.
What? I got to get up to Delray.
All right, well, maybe that's part of it.
Trendy little spot.
Can't
Yeah, it
access
is.
Delray in Milwaukee. All right.
Where the hell's Delray?
I know. I thought the same thing. It's north of Boca.
Yeah.
Oh!
Their annual garlic festival just slays.
He's right.
I'm just saying. Delray. It's a hot spot. You guys got it right. I got nothing else to say about Delray, but I've done my bit.
Is that closer than the distance between Milwaukee and Chicago? I don't think so. I think Giannis can just be like, I'll just go to Chicago tonight.
Yeah.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Does Delray's annual garlic festival slay?
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't think that's possible. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to go ahead and say that in the history of Slay has never been a garlic festival of any kind in any city.
You don't think someone came from the Garlic Festival one time and they said, hey, how'd the Garlic Festival go? And they said, I should slayed.
I don't.
A lot of bad breath going on there.
Oh my God! I don't believe it's got to be per square foot more bad breath than you will find anywhere in any plot of land. I also don't think. Put this on the poll as well at Le Batard Show. Do you improve your wardrobe by saying "I look good, yo"? At Le Batard Show.
Who said that?
You did.
Oh,
Yeah, I caught that.
Why did you throw a yo at the end of that?
Age inappropriate.
just living my life.
Well, Slay.
You just-
Slay
are
is
you doing
age.
that? Like-
Slay is age inappropriate. I mean, I think we already covered this. Just like we covered the grandfathers on median are racist.
Uh-huh.
We covered that you're too old to be using slay as a phrase.
Slay is lit. Shit is gas. I mean, I'm not making stuff up. Straight fire. Keep them coming.
You ran out of
Is that
material.
someone feeding
Is
you?
that-
Is that
is
a new saying? Keep them coming?
Is that you shouting into the other room? I've got no more. I've got slay and lit and fire and
Or
gas.
did someone feed him to keep him coming and he thought that was a saying?
Billy was
I
feeding
did.
him Yas Queen for 20 minutes.
What does that even mean?
Just say
Just
it.
What
trust
does
him.
gas mean? What does any of what you said mean?
It's fuel. I mean, that's how the wheels turn, man.
Petrol.
Speaking of fuel, I want to ask you guys, as the broadcasts in the NBA continue to add analysts so that the ESPN halftime show can be one syllable for each person, because I don't know why anyone at ESPN shows up to work for that halftime show, because there's no time to say anything and there are too many people. But Draymond Green is being added in the Eastern Conference. Michael Malone is being added in the Western Conference. It makes me wonder whether Michael Malone would have been added in the Western Conference if Denver had advanced. I'd like to know who their second was to Draymond Green. Do you think Michael Malone would have been added to the...
I think it would have been really interesting, right? Because all of a sudden it's like this team that you were the captain of, that you won a title with, now has Adelman, and he's the one taking him to a Western Conference final. I think that would have been really intriguing.
And I wanted to ask the rest of you, when you hear that Michael Jordan is back and that he's going to be a contributor to Peacock and NBC, and that NBC is serious about doing what Apple did with Messi, we got to figure out how to get people behind our paywall at Peacock. It also is going to be on NBC, but we have to have valuable things that we can hide somewhere and make people pay for it. I am not enthused in any way to hear a single sentence that Michael Jordan has to say about anything.
It's so hard to believe he's going to say anything.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's going to be like on Zoom, right? He's not going to be in studio, right?
Zoom, that would be funny.
Our friend Bailey tweeted out that this is the biggest indicator of a recession, is that Michael Jordan has finally taken a TV job after all these years. I used to think that there would be incredible value in having the greatest of all time just there, and you could just learn at their knee. Wayne Gretzky is not that great.
I think it's all right.
It's all right. Like,
He's
it's
gotten
cool.
better, though. He's gotten better. He was bad for years.
I think we all just think it's cool to hear Gretzky. He doesn't actually say much.
It's cool to hear Gretzky if you surround him by the right team. Turner has learned this.
Plays with Biz well.
But Tom Brady's the greatest of all time, and it's not going great. He's being used differently, and maybe Tom Brady would have more to say if he were part of a studio show, but before Tom, I would always subscribe to the school of notion. If you get the greatest of all time to do anything to talk about that sport with expertise, you go ahead and do that, because they can talk about the sport in ways that nobody else can. And I would love to hear what Michael Jordan has to say. I'm counting on Michael Jordan to be the curmudgeon that can't bury the hatchet with anybody, that just will use this platform to get out his grudges. I hope he's the Michael Jordan that we've heard about in private, and not the one that was guarded in front of the media and its cameras in the 1990s. It's been a very long time since Michael Jordan has ever had to speak to the media outside of NASCAR availability.
Do we know if MJ's watching basketball?
He is.
He is?
Oh, yeah. Say that.
Is that a report?
Dan knows.
Is that a report?
I just Wright Thompson spends a lot of time with him, and especially when he was the owner of Charlotte. There's no indication in the results there, but he's watching basketball nightly, and my guess is, like all the other old-timers, he will have his complaints about how it's played today. My guess is that you might end up being disappointed when Michael Jordan sounds like a grandfather complaining about what yesterday's games were, because he's going to sound like Shaq and Barkley.
Biggest complaint he'll have, Michael Jordan, is what?
Three-pointers. Like, go to the basket, no physical play. Like
the competitiveness. I think everyone's friends. I think everyone's
competitiveness.
Friends.
I think that's going to be the biggest
Can't
complaint.
wait to find out. And what you just highlighted, you were right to point out that everyone has that problem that's on TV right now, analyzing the game. They're all the good ones. They're all older, and they all have problem with the modern game.
But why do we think that a player who spent his entire career saying nothing is now going to be interesting and outspoken and honest? You know, time and time again, the all-time greats have gotten the microphone because they used to be all-time greats, and it fails time after time. A local example is Dan Marino. He had his shot with CBS. He wasn't very good, and he's not anywhere near the mic anymore.
Greg, you would concede the reason for optimism is the last time we've heard him speak on things was in a really good documentary series where he was his version of honest, and he was really interesting in that documentary. I know other people were interested in talking about him, but every time they cut to Jordan, people were at the edge of their seat waiting to hear what his side of things would be.
Like every question you just asked is completely fair. But I would say the executives at NBC, they've thought of that too, and they've decided to go forward with, we think this is a good idea.
Think they made him audition?
No, hold on a second.
Send in your tape. We got to hear what it sounds like.
I've got a few corrections I've got to make on all of the analysis here. One, television executives are among the least impressive people I've met in any kind of occupation. They think they're responsible for the success of things when they often aren't. That stuff is often subjective. Takes no genius to say we should get Michael Jordan. That just takes money. Secondarily, I have a theory when it comes to being as great as the people that you're talking about. To be that great, you end up being so lopsided that the detriment is you're not good at speaking at things on television. They're all terrible. Dan Marino, Wayne Gretzky, Tom Brady. Gretzky's gotten better because he's learned, but this is a skill that people don't understand, that it requires a different skill set from the things that made them great. The example I will give you, Pat Riley is an exceptional talker. He was terrible at television. They eventually had to get Bob Costas, the best ever, to just sit next to him and just be like, Pat, just stand there and look good. Smile, and Bob will handle all the details. This is a different thing from the things that you're good at. So I ask the question to all of you. The greatest athlete that there's been who's also on television being great at that is Barkley. Who's second? Like, who's second at being great at both things? You can make the argument that Barkley's television career is better than his basketball career, and it's no slight on his Hall of Fame basketball career. But generally speaking, and you weren't asking Barkley to be anyone different. He was exactly the same person on television. And Draymond Green will not be this because he doesn't know how to be likable this way. He's got too much edge and undercurrent. He says interesting things, but he will not be as likable as Charles Barkley. Who's second on this person was great at the sport, but also when they're talking, I have to listen because the morsels falling out of their mouth are smarter than everyone else. I've told you guys this story before. It's one of the reasons
smarter or more entertaining than everyone else.
Correct. Just good at television. But I've told you the story before of Barry Bonds, the greatest.
Wait, I'm just trying to learn the ground rules. You have to be considered all-time great. How do you do that? Because Cormier is really good. Daniel Cormier is really good for the UFC. He was a champion for a long time. He's excellent. He's a Hall of Famer. Is he all-time great in the heavyweight division?
For sure.
All right, so Daniel Cormier.
John Madden.
Back then, I think he checked the boxes in terms of being considered a great coach.
Like, does being coach count, player coach?
Even the championship count doesn't necessarily add up for John Madden, but his legacy grew with the video
no titles
game.
for Barkley.
But at the time, the sport was still young on television. I think John Madden would have been like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. I don't know. Greg, you were around that at that time. So
if coaches count, I would absolutely include Madden.
Gabby Sanchez.
Gruden, John Gruden also would probably be a champion there. I wasn't doing coaches. I was doing people who are all-time greats at the athleticism. Because I think of them as all being historically bad at television. It's not even mediocre. Gretzky was bad. Dan Marino had a job for many, many years where he was terrible at television. His job was only to be Dan Marino.
Can we go local?
Well, that's not going to resonate in terms of the best ever, is it?
I mean, I always thought Denny Potvin was excellent.
The Iceman, Scott Hamilton.
You're offering excellent nominations, Billy. I appreciate Gabby Sanchez and the Iceman as your nomination.
Scott Hamilton is an incredible example. He's the voice of figure skating.
Agreed.
The Iceman.
I was thanking you.
You don't know him.
I was thanking you. The story I was telling about Barry Bonds, I witnessed it, and it's one of the reasons that he was a terrible coach. The greats generally can't explain it very well. Is Larry Bird the greatest coach that there's been as a great player? There aren't many, but I'm in the clubhouse, and I see that Rich Aurelio, the shortstop for the Giants, he's just studying his bat over and over for an hour while I'm standing next to Barry Bonds. And Rich Aurelio is really suffering this. And right before he goes on the field, Barry Bonds comes over to Rich Aurelio and just sort of hits him in the back of the head. And he's like, you still don't know what you're doing wrong there? You got to do this with your hips. You got to do this with your toes. Da-da-da-da. And he walks out. And Aurelio just whispers under his breath, asshole. Because he has a gift. And in this particular instance, he was able to explain it to Aurelio. But to do it in a soundbite, Tom Brady still hasn't figured out how to do that in the right space and not be talking when the play's going on. It's a different skill set. Entirely, and these people don't have to learn different skill sets because they have to be the best at the one skill set they have, refine that, and to do it requires an obsessive compulsiveness that knocks you out on growing other parts of your personality.
I honestly think that's a big reason why Inter Miami is hiding Lionel Messi, doesn't want him speaking into a mic, because his greatness on the field, he's got no chance of matching that in terms of personality, in terms of what he says. He would come off as dull the antithesis of what he is on the field. And why go through that? Why put him through that?
Yeah, he also doesn't like doing it.
Right.
So he's not going to do it if he doesn't have to. Smoltz, is he all-time great enough to be in this grouping?
As a player, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, but people don't think of him as a good broadcaster. A lot of
Really?
people complain. A lot of baseball people complain a great deal about John Smoltz's analysis.
That happens? That's unfortunate. I don't watch it with the sound on, so I haven't for 2 decades at this point. But last I checked in about 20 years ago, I thought he was solid.
Romo, not an all-time great, but very good broadcaster.
Yeah, well,
different story, different
well, then
list.
what do we do? Aikman? Do we do combination? Aikman, a Hall of Famer. Yeah. Romo's not a Hall of Famer.
No.
And he's a champion.
What about Jimmy?
I don't want to do coaches. I wanted to do athleticism. Jimmy was good at it. Aikman's great because he's a Hall of Famer. Aikman, though, had 1 20-touchdown pass season. Oh, look, they found Messi on a Japanese television show. Let's just show this for people so that people can watch Lionel Messi and the absurdity of what it is that he can do. I thought this was AI the first time I saw it because I can't believe, even though this is the best soccer player there has ever been, that this person can do these kinds of these kinds of absurd tricks. This is what you have to do, Zaz, when you have Messi on. Don't let him speak. Just allow him again and again to kick the ball during the broadcast. If he's
What is he attempting to do?
No idea.
It seems like he won.
It says clear there, so I don't know. It seems pretty clear.
Kicked the ball really high and brought it down with his feet and kept the thing going. I think.
Is dead now, correct? Completely dead. There's no one. Is there anyone throwing the knuckleball now?
Someone has to be throwing.
Yeah.
I would say Tim Wakefield was.
None of us
bad.
have one. We're just like, yeah.
No, there has to
There's
be.
got to be. Well, wait a minute. The knuckleballer didn't go extinct without anyone telling us.
As long as there's breath in my lungs, there's a knuckleballer out there.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. As long as there is breath in your lungs, will there be a knuckleballer out there?
There should be more because if you notice, I mean, I don't have any stats to back this, but I don't care. I'm going with it regardless. I would say that the position players that are pitching have a much better ERA than average pitchers do. Because they're all just going out there throwing the ball like 35 miles an hour, and the hitters are so confused that they just get under it, they pop up. Like nary a run is scored off of a position player. Sometimes, but not always.
I loved when baseball analysis was starting strong. I loved the people who would do the analytics on how a knuckleballer would screw up your hitters the next day. The preparing for a knuckleball would screw you up the next day as well because you're sitting out there hitting those 45-mile-an-hour butterflies.
There's nothing that I hated more, like growing up watching the Marlins, than when Jamie Moyer was coming to play against them. And I don't even remember if he was a knuckleballer, if he could just only hit 75.
Slop. It was just slop.
He could only hit
he was not a knuckleballer.
72.
He was just old, and he threw croutons up
Anytime there was a knuckleballer or just an
Oh,
old man that could throw the ball really slow, I knew like this team can only hit fastballs, and this is going to be a long day and a long week because they're not going to be able to figure it out.
And it's frustrating because you're just seeing these meatballs go over the plate. You're like, how can you not deal with this? This is so slow. Hit the baseball. And yet Jamie Moyer had a 20-year career. He was 40. He was still pitching.
What is the ruling of the committee? Is Stugotz is nominated? I need some sort of formal ruling from the committee. He has nominated Joe Musgrove. Billy is passionately against. Chris, are you willing to give him horse status because horse status is before ace? Horse is not an ace.
Chris, before you answer, I have good news on the knuckleballer front. There is still one remaining. Mickey Giannis of the Orioles is still throwing it.
Okay? The worst team in the league.
He's still out there, though, keeping the species alive.
It
will
also
not
seems
go
though
extinct.
Mickey Giannis has only pitched one game in 2021.
Oh,
in Major League Baseball.
He's still
He is
trying.
currently-
Still breath in my lungs.
Yeah.
He is currently with the Chicago Dogs of the American Association of Professional Baseball, which I don't think is in Major League Baseball. So
it is extinct.
So it is extinct for now, yeah.
But extinct in the majors doesn't make it extinct as a
Hibernating, yeah,
species.
exactly.
This may surprise you, Dan, but there are only 33 pitchers who have ever thrown a knuckleball in a major league game, according
that's
to
wrong.
Wikipedia.
That's
Which
wrong.
I was surprised how small that number was.
I don't think that's wrong, Billy. Why would you think that that's wrong?
That's wrong.
Let's all name knuckleballers we can think of and see if
Well,
they're
no,
on
we'd
there.
never come up with 33 of them. 33 sounds about right to me. It's a terrifying way to make a living. Imagine all these guys. They're just failed pitchers who developed some other.
Whoa!
Failed pitcher.
Someone with like a 15, 20-year career is a failed pitcher?
Well, Jimmy Moyer is not a knuckleballer. You made him a knuckleballer just because he throws
Tim
soft.
Wakefield,
Soft
pitched,
toss.
yeah, across decades.
There are a couple of guys who are exceptions, but largely the knuckleballer is a novelty freak who comes out, and it is hard to make a living that way.
Jeez.
Freak, what are you
I don't
doing?
like how you're describing these things.
Right?
Rude.
Isn't Phil Niekro in the Hall of Fame? I mean,
Is he? I don't think so.
you don't think so?
He is in the Hall of Fame.
319 wins.
There are 4 knuckleballers.
What was his career?
What's your
Baseball Hall
standard
of
for the
Fame.
Hall of Fame?
No,
He
that's
also
my
had
that's my bad.
274 losses.
No, that's my bad. He just pitched forever, and I should know that. And
Nickname
if you
Nuxty.
get,
Compiler.
if you get,
Nuxty.
that is a classic compiler right there. Phil
Dangerous
Niekro in the
nickname.
Hall of Fame with 300 wins and 280 losses.
Jesus, he pitched for 24 years.
He had a-
started 716 games.
He had a 3.35 ERA. I mean, that's legit good.
He pitched in Major League Baseball until he was
It's not.
48.
You're right, Stugotz. I stand corrected. It is my bad. I should have known. I think of Phil and Joe Niekro as the same kind of pitchers, and they are not. Joe Niekro was not a Hall of Famer, and Phil Niekro was. But go ahead and Google image search Phil Niekro so you could see. Please enjoy. I want you visually to enjoy what he looked like in a Braves uniform, and you tell me if that is a baseball Hall of Famer. The way that you look at bodies today,
It's like Christopher Lloyd.
you need.
He does.
He looks like
Doc Brown.
He looks like Gary Busey in that movie with Henry Rowan Gardner. What was it? Rookie of the Year.
He looks like a bit. Also, Gaylord Perry looked like this too. The old pitcher in the movie Major League, the old slop ball thrower. He's just an old man on the mound, is what he is. Jessica, what is your opinion here?
He looks like
That is
a
not
retired
him.
chemistry
Wait a minute.
professor.
That's him when he's still playing?
His hair is so long, and I think it's coming out of his ears.
He's wearing a polo under that shirt.
Listen
That
to me.
can't be right.
This is what.
He looks like Uncle Dick.
Listen.
I have been told that we have secured Dan Graziano. He will be joining us in about an hour so that Billy can accuse him to his face and Tony can accuse him to his face of lying about his workouts.
Falsehoods. No, I said I was more impressed by this than anything. I came in raving about Dan Graziano and his commitment to fitness. Tony's the one here calling him a liar for some reason.
I didn't say liar. I
Everyone's
said
backtracking.
Does he?
Yeah,
no.
here
I
we
said,
go.
does he take liberties with the app sometimes?
Here we go.
Sure. Does he maybe do it on a Christmas morning? He probably
Backtracking.
doesn't do a full Peloton workout. Come on, that's all I'm saying.
I like that, Chris. Keep working on that. Just the shouting of backtracking.
Backtrackers!
Yes, when we secure a guest in an hour, and all of a sudden the commentary. Man, I've been watching Stugotz do that one for years.
What do you get out of calling Dan Graziano a liar about working out?
Never
Like,
called him that,
Are
so
you
I don't know.
jealous of like him being committed to fitness? Like, what is it? What's your problem with him?
I don't have a problem with him whatsoever, and I know what you're doing. Not going to fall for it.
Well, you did accuse him of lying about working out every day on his Peloton, and Greg Cody, I think, said it was flatly bullshit. So
No, I said he was a braggart.
well, but you accuse someone of bullshit. Again, there's backtracking everywhere
No, we
around
said
here.
Skip was full of shit when he said he's only missed 2 days since
Since 1980.
1982 and that
Yeah.
he invented weightlifting in 1980 whatever.
Well, Jemele Hill can answer some of these questions. She knows some of these people involved. She's got new episodes of her podcast every week on iHeart, Spolitics, or is it Spolitics? It's Spolitics?
No, it's politics. You said it right.
It's on Eric Spoelstra and
Trackers.
Is it politics?
It's clearly Eric Spoelstra talks politics with Jemele Hill. It's
exactly. The political analysis you've been dying to hear.
Signing up right now. I'm subscribing right now.
It's huge. You should see. Filipino Jackson is huge in the Philippines. This podcast is so popular. The politics of the Philippines they talk about. You can also subscribe to her YouTube channel at It's Jemele Hill. She's a contributing writer for The Atlantic. And I've got a number of things to talk about with her and to play a new game because I don't think she knows this. But at the end, at ESPN, whenever it is I was having an argument with any kind of executive, I would say, oh, I'm willing to die on that Jemele Hill. So we're going to play with Jemele Hill, Would You Die on That Hill, in a moment. But can you tell me what America is rooting for in basketball here? Because I am deathly afraid that for one of the first times in my life, maybe since 9/11, I'm feeling America root for New York sports teams.
I think you would be right about that. I mean, we know the networks are certainly rooting for the Knicks to make this, but I feel like a little bit of both because I do think that there is an element of fans, or a faction of fans, I should say, who want to see something different. Who appreciate the fact that OKC not being from a major market, or Minnesota not being in a major market, that Midwest, Southwest teams. Or even Indiana, the fact that somebody very non-traditional can make it. And I realize the Knicks also have not been in this position in a long time. They haven't won a championship since the early 70s. But it feels like people are sort of ready for that something different. But yeah, unfortunately, the majority of people are rooting for the Knicks. It's a little hard for me. While I do understand and appreciate what Knicks fans have been through, this is a very triggering to see them in this position because I'm a Pistons fan. So obviously I had to go through that series. And so seeing them experiencing success is both good and bad because part of it is that like the Pistons gave them a very tough series. On the other end of it, it's sort of like, when your enemy makes it further, you naturally are disgusted by it. So I'm torn between two things here when it comes to the New York Knicks.
Okay, hold on a second. The league, media, certainly wants New York. But you're telling me we're watching videos of Knicks fans throw trash at other fans outside. They're throwing trash at Brian Windhorst walking out the arena. And the majority of people are rooting for New York?
I think a lot of people are. And by the way, Brian Windhorst, as you all know, who is one of the nicest human beings on earth. And for that to happen to him is really baffling. And it's sort of, it's definitely classless by some of those Knicks fans. But yeah, I think there is a contingent of people who like seeing teams who haven't won in a long time generally win things. Now, I would be curious, outside of New York, and I don't even know, I think the media is beating this drum of like, well, the Knicks haven't won since the early 70s, Mecca of basketball, blah, 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 blah. I don't know that if you are a Laker fan or if you're in other parts of the country, if you give a shit that the Knicks win a title. Like, I don't know that to be the case. But I do know that generally speaking, American sports fans appreciate and like it when there is a new name that is in the mix to win a championship, because it typically gives those fans something to hope for in their own right, in their own regard with their own teams.
I want to attack a couple of the things that she just mentioned there. Windhorst, I think, one of the great underestimations of my lifetime has been knowing that people hate the media, but not knowing how much people hate the media. Like, I knew it was bad, but what they think of the media, if you're mad and you put Brian Windhorst in your Tool Hall of Fame, the inaugural member, Jemele is correct when she says Brian Windhorst is regarded by others in this industry as one of the sweetest, fairest persons who exist. And to have him thrown trash at only because he's a symbol for ESPN, and the Knicks are 0-8 on ESPN, and they don't like Stephen A. Smith very much because his fandom feels bandwagony and insincere, and so Windhorst just becomes an easy person to be bullied.
No, I mean, look, I'm very immature in general, and I did not like seeing that video. It really bothered me. I mean, okay, you put the fake microphone. I don't care who you want. Like, okay, and everybody has a good laugh, but like they're throwing trash at him as he's walking away. That's garbage. I don't like that.
It is garbage. It's literally garbage.
No, I didn't like it.
I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this, Jamel, but the point I wanted to make about New York being an underdog is you just never see this. You never see it. Maybe Isaiah Thomas? The player that size never gets to be the winner in that sport. That's not how that works. Jalen Brunson can't be the smallest player on the court and the biggest when it matters. Only Isaiah. Who else other than Isaiah? Iverson got a run at it, but you're just not allowed to be that size and win the championship in that sport.
But I think that adds to this idea about people rooting for the Knicks, that that America is pulling for the Knicks. It's like Jalen Brunson. I remember when he went to the Knicks. And there was a lot of questions about whether or not he deserved that kind of money. Like, why would a guy like this make this much money and be considered the star of this kind of franchise? And so because he has that underdog story in his own right, combined with a major city that has not won a championship in a long time, I think it's fueling a lot of the fandom outside of New York that is there for the Knicks. And so, I think the trajectory of his career is just really fascinating because not only is he an underdog in terms of size, but I think he's very much an underdog in terms of how we think of who is supposed to be a star in the NBA. And he does not fit the typical criteria that we are used to seeing, given what his trajectory in his career has been.
Zaz is right, though. You don't want these particular people to be louder. Halliburton has already bought tickets and is flying Pacers fans, plural, who had trash thrown on them to the game in New York. New York has been unreasonable about its few victories in the last 25 years.
By the way, that Pacer fan right there is a firefighter in New York City. They're throwing trash at him. And root for the Knicks.
They don't know he's a firefighter.
Okay, but still he is.
Should have been wearing his hat. Greg's right.
He should have rolled and dropped there, even though there's no fire nearby.
Stop, drop, roll. Yeah,
whatever.
Roll and drop, roll, move. It's crazy. If you knew that the exchange was you were going to get flown to an Eastern Conference Finals game for them throwing trash at you, would you take the trash?
Yeah.
How much?
I mean, you gotta take the trash.
Well, but how much trash is it? Is it trash with juice?
Yeah. Oh my God.
That bag looked wet.
Is it juicy trash? Because it just trash. You guys are imagining a neatly wrapped bag being thrown at you, which is fine. But now make it dumpster juice.
If it was one person throwing trash at me, maybe. This was like hundreds of people walking at him and chasing him down.
Imagine coming home stinking of dumpster juice, and your wife says, "What's going on?" It's worth it. Being flown out to the game.
Baby, we're going to the ECF.
You smell like garbage, honey. It's okay though. We're going to be surrounded by it at the Mecca.
Jerks throwing stuff at Brian Windhorst.
I don't like it.
I hated it.
It really
video.
bothers me. I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm going for the Pacers now. Sorry.
That's it? You're with the Pacers?
This is so
Third
high
team in the
school.
last
I didn't actually see this version of it before. We're showing from behind people throwing stuff. I saw the side version where the guy was just in his face.
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
It
that version
sucks.
sucks.
It sucks.
Sucks.
It sucks.
Sucks.
It sucks.
It didn't hit him though.
Oh, Tony.
It would have been worse with dumpster juice.
Worse if it would have hit him.
It would have been worse with dumpster juice. We can agree on
Empty
that,
bottle,
right?
one short.
And he's like speeding up his walk to get away from.
He's
I
got
hate
the
this.
backpack with the sports coat is
That's a
also
flex.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's such sports writer swag right there, by the way.
Nerd with all the little stickers they
Come
put on your bag.
Hey, nerd.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is the coolest guy any of us have ever seen.
I mean, I try. I don't wear a backpack.
Yeah, because you write from home.
No, I mean, back in my day, the only people who wore backpacks were students carrying books. Why is everybody wearing a backpack now?
Because nerds have briefcases now.
Well, briefcases, that's a whole nother story. I did it back in my day on briefcases.
Why would you call Windhorst a nerd?
Only because he's wearing a suit with a backpack. It just doesn't go. Jamel knows. Doesn't go.
Remember, though, Greg, we were talking about back in my day, that they used to give the media, like at whatever event, the free swag was the roller laptop bag.
Uh-huh.
So like I had the roller laptop bag. I didn't graduate to the backpack until later on in my writing career because that was a little easier to carry. But like him, also wearing business casual clothing with the backpack and the 9,000 little bands that they put on your backpack because those are security passes or whatever. So I have walked that walk that Brian Windhurst is walking. I've been in those particular shoes with the sport coat and the backpack. So I'm here to defend it.
I'm sorry. I got to keep pushing. I think if you were to poll everyone, the Knicks would be third, maybe fourth as far as the teams that America wants to win.
You think OKC and Minnesota are above?
I think they're 1 and 2.
No. There's one national team in this Final Four. It's the New York Knicks. They're a national team. They're from the biggest city. They have transplants all over the country. They haven't won an NBA title in 50 years. America wants the Knicks to win.
Oh, I think
Period,
you're
paragraph.
nuts. They're so unlikable.
Let's put it on the poll.
The fan base. The fan base.
Who do you want to win the championship? Put all 4 teams up there.
People don't care about the fans. They don't care if Knicks fans are loud and boisterous.
Oh, that's not
throw
true.
Things.
I rooted against both teams, Boston and New York, in the last series only because of their fans.
Well, Maple Leafs fans are some of the worst in North America. I mean, don't get me started with that. Ask Marchand about that.
What happens if we get you started on that?
I mean,
I feel like you did about
Let's
what you
get
had.
him started. I don't think you have any more. I think you're started and finished. I don't
want to know what happens.
I thought Marchand had a great quote when he said, those fans, meaning Toronto, heap all of the pressure on their own team. And I think it's absolutely true.
Chuck said that too. That we don't have to deal with that here. With it's unfair what they have to. It's been a little patronizing the way everyone's talking about the Leafs after that.
There are some Leafs fans that are suggesting the way that Florida is going about
I
this
totally agree.
is so sick. It is twisted.
Like pitying them.
They're trying
Maurice
to keep.
did it also.
They're trying to keep this core together in Toronto and make excuses for them. Man, they're really close. You gotta keep those guys
Damn
together.
good team.
Yeah, they'll blow it up. And their own coach says it's between the ears. The Panthers had them beat mentally. Their own coach said that.
I would say if Panthers players are saying, you know what the Maple Leafs fans are doing, putting pressure on, we don't have to deal with that. That's more of an insult to Panthers fans.
No, we know how to do it. We do it the right way.
We don't care enough.
I've
maybe
got to
what
be
they're
with
saying.
Billy. I have not heard before. Our customers care too much.
Yeah, I'm saying you don't have that passion.
And it's a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage at home in a Game 7 that our fans cared too much.
I think they're all getting off of that press availability stage and laughing.
I mean, they're throwing jerseys on the ice while play is going on, throwing full beers onto the ice.
Right.
I mean,
they're booing their team in the second period.
Because they allowed 75 shots. They deserve to be booed.
It's not between the ears why you can't get the puck out of your own zone for the first 15
Paul
minutes
Maurice,
of the game.
do you know how rare it is for a coach to advance and be like pitying the opponent because they're in their building and he's sad because he feels like he's attended a funeral, which he has?
But he is a sensitive man. Yeah.
He also killed them, so.
There's that. He's the murderer of both Fun and the Maple Leafs.
Is a murderer allowed to go to a funeral and be sad?
Go ahead and put that on the poll and play.
Yeah, put that one on the poll.
Give her intro music. It's taken too long to get here.
It's time for your friendly neighborhood race lady.
RG3 against Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark goes after RG3 because RG3 has made the Fox pivot and is saying at every point, I keep it in the arena. Ryan Clark did cross the line saying he doesn't talk to black women because he's married to white women. I do believe that is a line cross.
Woman.
No.
It's one woman. To be fair, Dan is encapsulating here. There's more to it.
I believe that he's married and divorced. I may be having that wrong.
That is correct,
yes.
man. Yes.
And
yes.
So I do believe that I want your analysis as a legitimate journalist on
and a legitimate black woman.
That as well. Yes. The line between something that's talked about in the mainstream and something that's talked about in private, because RG3 versus Ryan Clark is being discussed by people. It's just not being discussed by people very well or very much on television.
Well, I definitely understand why RG3 reacted and responded that way. Anytime you start bringing in somebody's family, you're going to get a reaction. That being said, I do notice in general, a lot of times, or enough times, I won't say a lot, I don't want to put too much on it, is that RG3 is very defensive about his marriage in a way as if he's hearing whispers or he understands how it looks. And he's brought his marriage into things before, right? Like him being in an interracial relationship. It feels like a lot of times he is apologizing for this or trying to defend this. And I'm like, who you trying to defend it to, bro? Like, if that's who you chose to marry, be okay with it, stand on it, and that's the end of it. But in other things, he has done that, right? And so, which, always strikes me as a bit strange that you would feel like you need to defend what you have clearly chosen. And I'm like, I don't think there's a legion of black women that have a problem with that. Now, that being said, I think the reason I understood why Ryan Clark brought that into the mix, whether or not it crossed the line, yeah, I mean, I think you can easily make that point that it did, but I do get why he did, because this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing, which I was like, man, why did this happen like just a couple days into the WNBA season? There's a lot of tropes, there's a lot of narratives, there's a lot of underlying racism that is going on underneath what we see or what should be just seen as purely a basketball rivalry. I would love if we could see it in that context, like hard foul, flagrant, understood why it was called. Yeah, there was a reaction. Let's move on. I would love for that to be the case. But ever since they met in the national championship, that has not been the case. It is, I know we made the comparisons to Magic and Bird, but I think it's even a little bit more intrinsic or a little bit more deeper than that, because black women are constantly up against certain tropes when it comes to behavior, when it comes to looks, when it comes to all these things. And you're talking about a league where the majority of women are black. You had a third of women who are LGBTQ+. And the way that this league is often talked about, presented by people, is a reflection of how people feel about those two groups. And Angel Reese is caught in the firestorm of that, particularly as she has this, whatever you want to call it, rivalry with Caitlin Clark. And there are narratives that are following Caitlin Clark as well. And when you speak to black women, there's a lot of black women who are huge fans of Angel Reese. And I think part of the reason that fandom is as strong as it is, in addition to her being a basketball player who's accomplished a lot and what she's already accomplished in the league with the double doubles, in addition to her ability to play, is because there are a lot of black women who look at Angel Reese and can relate to some of the things that she has gone through. They can relate to the fact that this is a woman who is very unapologetic about who she is. And it kind of reminds me how a lot of black men, I'm not saying, obviously, socially, they're very different. So I don't want people to run away with some headline saying I'm calling Angel Reese Muhammad Ali. But a lot of reasons that black athletes love Muhammad Ali is because of his unapologetic nature, because he wasn't afraid to talk his shit, because of what he stood on. You see it with Deion Sanders. You see it with a lot. Like, there's been a long line of black athletes because of their unapologetic behavior and attitude that really resonates with a lot of black people who want to feel that way in our space. We want to be in spaces and not have to apologize for who we are. And so a lot of black women appreciate that. So I think inartfully and maybe clumsily, what Ryan was trying to explain is that if you talk to black women and understand why they ride for Angel Reese and why that right now she is the hero they both need and deserve, then maybe you can understand why what you said was so hurtful to a lot of black women in particular. I think that's what Ryan was trying to say. I haven't talked to Ryan. I don't know. But yes, of course, naturally, RG3 was going to respond when he brought in his wife. He's basically saying, like, hey, you don't even know black women enough to understand why what you said would set them off. So that's where we are with this right now.
I thought that Juju Gotti was great on this subject in the post-game show yesterday. I will ask you what's fair or not fair in the commentary that you've seen around this, because when you invoke Magic and Bird, and it's the only thing like this I've seen, you know that Magic went out of his way to be more palatable and cross the gulf of whatever he had to be at the time in order to be somebody who was marketed by and for the NBA the way that it was. The thing that I wanted to ask you, though, is I think it's being not talked about enough how much these two women have to play each other because there are so few teams in the league. And so the sparks keep rising on this. So what's fair and not fair here?
Fever, I tried to tell you.
Because sparks and fever are rising. And Liberty. Well, no, less so. I would say that I think that we are watching something that's easier to talk about than the games because the men who are talking about it, myself included, are more informed and interested in the soap opera over here than just, the games, the regular season games.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of it. I mean, I've written about this for The Atlantic, is that suddenly, because Caitlin Clark has been able to attract a lot of new fans, and because of the commentary around these two in particular, you have people who are chiming in who don't necessarily carry with them the institutional knowledge. And so when that is not the case, the drama becomes a lot sexier to just talk about this as a rival. And people love drama in sports in general. So I'm not trying to pretend as if this is some new phenomenon. Then, like, when it comes to the drama, as much as people say, hey, I just want to talk about the sports, or I just want to talk about the results, or I just want to talk about people's ability, that's not usually what creates the conversation. What creates the conversation is some stuff that's happening that is larger than what is going on between the lines. And I guess what I have always not liked about this conversation was some of the things that RG3 said, is that he immediately went to, you can tell she hates her. And it's like, what? How can you tell that? Like, they are competitive and they are rivals, and I get it. And if anything, I will be willing to concede this. I don't pick up that Angel Reese has a personal hatred of Caitlin Clark. What I do pick up from Angel Reese, because she said it, and I like to go with the face value of what the athlete actually says, is I think she resents the fact that she can't have her separate story away from the Caitlin Clark drama. Like, Caitlin Clark can have her separate story. Like, when Caitlin Clark is in any press conference or whatever, unless she's playing Angel Reese or it's something specifically that they have done together that is happening in the moment, she is not asked about Angel Reese at all. She's asked about thousands of other things about her ability as a basketball player. Angel Reese is always routinely asked about Caitlin Clark. And I think she resents that part of it, is the fact that, like, hey, I can't even have my own identity. I can't even have my own identity outside of this storyline that has been following me since college. And if we recall, when Angel Reese announced she wasn't coming back to LSU, when she was in tears, no one had any sympathy for her when she talked about these same men now that are chiming in about Angel Reese and, talking about her behavior and all this. When she cried before the public and told you part of the reason she was leaving LSU was because of all the racial animosity that she faced. They had no sympathy for her. And so she is carrying this chip and she is carrying this resentment, but I don't think it's about Caitlin Clark. I think it's about the way that people have talked about her and about the lack of, frankly, grace that they have shown her through since that moment where she, trash talked Caitlin Clark and flaunted that she won a championship. They have painted this woman out to be so villainous, and we forget how young she still is, that naturally she's wearing a lot of that on her sleeve. So I thought RG3, he's entitled to his own opinion, but I thought his analysis missed the mark and it was unfair, personally.
I want, before we get to our new game show that I'm going to ask Zaslow to host here, Would You Die on This Hill? I wanted to ask you about, again, the difference between how the mainstream covers something and the rest of the internet talks about it. The New York Times now has a new profile on Belichick and Jordan Hudson. Belichick continues to make himself available all over the place. In this story, Jordan has told at least one person that she and Bill Belichick are engaged to be married. What's fair and unfair here, Jamel?
I mean, Dan, they invited us into their relationship. It's like nobody was clamoring to know about Bill Belichick's love life. I certainly wasn't, right? But when you start posting pictures of y'all doing yoga on the beach and like all this other stuff, you're inviting people into your relationship. And just especially since that 60 Minutes interview, she's right there. We all saw it on camera. So listen, given especially all of, Pablo Torre has been like the Woodward and Bernstein of this relationship. With all the
it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. The click grabbing is embarrassing by him.
I'm not going to let you dog my boy like that. But, because of the details we've been able to learn about her influence and how that might be impacting his ability to do his job, his relationship is completely fair game because he made it that way. They made it fair game, and so, it's clear that maybe he did not understand what this fallout would be, especially in the social media age. This is the same dude who couldn't tell Facebook from a real book, right? Like just a few years ago, as he's talking about his level of non-participation in social media. And now he's getting the other end of it is like what happens when you do make a relationship public, especially when it's this significant of an age difference. I mean, we can't pretend like we don't see these things, Dan. And it's like, as much as I don't want to talk about Bill Belichick's relationship, he opened the door. And so now that the floodgates are open, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of, I guess, sympathy for him, if that's what you're looking for. Like, I just don't, because you invited people to this place.
Can you give me, please, some hacky game show music for this new game, Would You Die on This Hill? And they will not be as hard as this, but I will just start the bidding before I give it over to game show host Zaslow. Is the median grandfather racist? Would you die on this hill? The average median grandfather, any race, any culture.
Okay.
In
racist.
fairness, they're from a different time, Jamel.
Yes. Is
Right.
Is the median grandfather racist?
Because it wasn't racism then when they did it. Is the median grandfather racist? Okay, I'm trying to think of all the men I met, which is not a lot, of what would be grandfather age.
Greg Cody age.
Greg.
Don't insult me, Jamel.
I think I got to be honest. I think it depends on what race we're talking about.
Okay, this is a distinction she's making that ruins the game. Will you die on the hill or will you not die on the hill? All of this nuance. There's a correct answer.
You're right. You're right, Dan. You're right. Forget about nuance. I'll die on the hill that the median grandfather is racist.
Wow.
I will die on the hill that they are.
All right, I'll hand over the proceedings to Zaslow. He's a better game show host than I am.
Is he all right?
I'm waiting for my game show music, Mike Ryan. Yes.
No. What's happening?
Hockey.
Oh, that is not the game show we're playing today. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of everyone's favorite game show, Jamel. Would you die on this hill? Everybody, I'm Jonathan Zaslow, your host. Everybody knows I am a game show host. Dan Le Batard, would you like to explain the rules of Would You Die on This Hill?
I think I just did. We could just
Don't
get right
worry about
to
it. I will explain it. I am the game show host. I will present questions, and Jamel will tell us if she would die on this hill. Here we go. Jamel, first question. Michael Jordan is better than LeBron. Would you die on this hill?
I will. I'll be stabbed on that hill. Yes, I will die on that hill that Michael Jordan is better than LeBron.
All right, that got violent. That's not the type of game show.
It's unnecessary.
That we are trying
okay. I don't
to
have to say the manner of death in which I would die.
No.
All right.
Let's not
natural
get
Bonus
started.
points if you do, though. Yeah.
Really?
Let's have a good time here. It is a family show. Next up for Jamel, pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. Would you die on this hill?
By firing squad, I would die on that hill.
All right, still a little too violent for this game show host taste.
Really?
Yeah, pineapple on pizza is disgusting. I hate. I don't even know who started that. It's
Terrible
ridiculous.
Terrible take.
Next up
The
on
worst
everyone's
thing ever.
favorite game show.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I've got to get.
Would
Hold on, I got to get Tony.
Tony knows pizza.
Tony, argue with her. Go ahead.
Jamel's wrong here. I love Jamel, but she's wrong. It's okay. Pepperoni and pineapple
Why
together.
would you ever put a sweet fruit on a pizza?
Because
Like,
you got
the
the
whole
spicy
point of it
pineapple, and then
It's
you got the
supposed
sweet
to be
fruit.
savory.
Yeah,
Sweet
but
with
then
the savory.
Sweet with the
Have
savory.
you ever smoked
Spicy
drugs?
pineapple.
You ever
Thank
smoked
you.
drugs?
Thank you.
Sometimes you want the
I-
sweet and the salty.
Together.
I missed that part of my life. I did not. I
well,
never.
Smoke some drugs. Yeah, perhaps smoke some drugs or eat some drugs. Then you realize, oh, I get this now.
Pineapple.
This was possibly invented by someone who smoked or ate drugs.
Just be clear on this. She's a respected journalist. She has peed drunk on a car tire. She has
I
not
have.
smoked drugs.
Well, if you smoke
Yes.
drugs, then you'd know that there is a purpose for it.
Oh, okay. I got it. I mean, wait, hold up. Let me think. I was like, I have smoked weed before. Like, I mean, long
Doing it
long
wrong.
time ago. Okay, so yes, but I didn't get sweet and savory when I smoked weed.
Man.
Sorry, I didn't.
You don't
I
get the
didn't get
munchies?
that.
That's okay. The palate's not there. That's fine.
Get some French
No,
onion dip.
no. I mean, I'm a terrible. I'm the worst weed smoker ever created.
Moving
Like,
on today's episode
Okay.
of Would You Die on This Hill. Jamel, the NBA draft lottery is not rigged.
I will die on the hill. It is not rigged at all. At all. Do
Definitely
you know
smoking drugs.
how many people would have to be in on the conspiracy for it to work? This is not possible, people.
Yes, they'd all be in prison too. That's
Thank you. I was like, no, people, it's not.
Does this game show host look like he would do well in prison? No, everybody knows that.
vending machine for sex.
Holding pockets. Let's move it along. Next up, Jamel, Major League Baseball. Did Pete Rose dirty?
Nah, man, they didn't do him dirty.
She's
Like,
not
he-
dying on that hill.
I'm not dying on that hill.
It
Mm-mm.
hurts.
I'm
when we
very
don't-
firmly alive.
Living on
Living
the hill.
on that hill.
Living on the hill. Yes. We also have to ask her the question though in sing-song chant. It doesn't work really if we don't say
Living.
Would you
Die on this hill.
Is it this or that hill? What are we doing?
It's this.
Anything else? Do you have any others there?
Of course, there is still time left in today's episode of Would You Die on This Hill? Jamel, Florida does not deserve a hockey team like the Panthers.
Be careful here.
Would
No.
you die on this hill?
Very
I
careful.
would not die on that hill. Florida absolutely deserves.
Yeah, we do.
hockey
Thank you.
team.
Live.
Yeah,
I mean, 6 straight conference finals when you include the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Night.
What are we doing?
yes. Every sports fans deserve good things to happen to them for the most part.
Not all.
I mean, some sports fans maybe not, but
Except
most of them
garbage
do.
throwing Knicks fans.
Except garbage throwing Knicks fans, but the majority of sports
It
fans.
is now time for the next question on Would You Die on This Hill? Jamel, only monsters order a steak medium well.
Would
You die on
No, I'm
this
not dying on that
hill? Please wait for us to finish asking the question. You may now answer.
Okay, no, I am not dying on that hill. I want you to hear my rationale.
Oh, boy.
I do
Oh, boy.
order steaks medium
Oh,
well
no.
only because
Oh no.
I know they won't really do it medium well. I know they'll do it medium, like closer to medium rare. It just won't be like if I order a medium rare, the thing is gonna still be alive. So I order a medium well to get the medium rare that I actually want.
That's fair.
I think medium
Yes.
would work in that
Medium,
spot.
yeah. There's a
Medium
reason
is
why it's
fine.
medium.
Medium.
It is now
Yeah, but
time for the bonus round of
Oh.
Would You Die on This Hill? Everybody knows in the bonus round, we open it up for questions from the audience.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I've got one for
okay.
her. I've got
Everybody
one
knows.
for her.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't know everyone knew that. I will say in your voice, I'm used to being cynical and skeptical about celebrity behavior, but Diddy has exceeded my every wretched expectation.
Where'd you learn this?
Would you die
Is this game
on
show
this
host school?
hill?
What was the question?
That's why he's the game show host. Would
This
you?
is what happens when you let a rogue member of
What
the
was the
audience.
question? Never
ask
good when
the
there's
question.
This is why
I
we
was like,
vet
what
the
the hell am I
pepper.
dying on with Diddy? Exactly.
Never
Like,
good when
what?
there's an apology midway through the question.
Well, I think I understand where you were going with it, but in terms of filter and the headlines every day, they are. I'm just like I can't read any more of this. It's way beyond. I mean, I don't want to say that nothing should surprise us in today's age of celebrity or media, but I just think that every headline is just like, did you just jumble up a bunch of the strangest things that you could put together and then
Yes
he did.
or no?
I will die on the hill that I don't want to read any more about Diddy. Yes.
That'll do it for today's edition.
I don't even know if that was the question. I just answered the question.
Would you die on this hill? I've been your host, Jonathan Sasso.
Thank you, Jamel. Good talking to you. Always nice seeing you.